system of American series in the Rebirth of America. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 51, Character Determines Destiny. University of Chicago. Hearing Katie's ambiguous question, Owen looked over in surprise. The Department of Mathematics at the University of Chicago is always ranked among the top 5 in the United States. Isn't it normal for me to choose the University of Chicago? That's right. Katie's eyes evaded, and she was a little flustered when she was asked. She turned her head to look at the people walking in 2s and 3s, and changed the subject. The exam is about to start. I'm going in. Yeah. Owen understood, and the corners of his mouth curled up. After you go in, just wait. It is estimated that it will take 45 to 90 minutes before the formal exam. Adjust your state well. With your ability, it is easy to get a high score. I'll wait for you outside. No need. Katie refused. The exam will take 4 hours, plus the waiting time. It's too long. I'm very grateful that you accompanied me here today. Don't affect your exam tomorrow. I insist. Owen said firmly. Just kidding. As the saying goes, a woman's face is red, and her heart is moved. Under Owen's strategy of retreating to advance, Katie was still willing to accept his kindness and let him accompany her to take the exam. At this moment, her face was red and her eyes were shining, which clearly showed that she was hinting to Owen. Okay. Katie glanced at Owen, said softly, and walked towards the examination room tremblingly. To be honest, when it comes to appearance, Owen prefers Karen Jackson and Gretchen Venus. Thinking about it carefully, what attracted him to Katie was a trembling degree comparable to Karen Smith. Hey, I'm such a vulgar person. I thought I liked temperament, but I didn't expect that what I like most in my heart is still the wave equation. Owen self-examined. Of course, Karen Smith and Gretchen Venus did not let Owen get the driver card. After asking the American drama system, Owen learned that the goddess required for the driver card must not only have appearance, but also have luck. Most of the heroines of European and American film and television dramas, as well as the supporting actresses with outstanding luck, can let Owen get the driver card. Today is Saturday, and it is the Sat 1 exam. Owen's Sat 2 exam will be held tomorrow, Sunday. After watching Katie enter the examination room, Owen turned around and prepared to visit the University of Chicago to kill time. After all, Sat 1 involves 3 parts: reading, writing, and mathematics. With the long waiting time, it will take 5 or 6 hours. Even if it is for love, Owen will not wait here foolishly. But when he just turned and walked out, a familiar figure flashed in front of him. When he looked closely, he saw a hooded man with a bent body in the corner of the flower bed, taking the examination bag containing the admission ticket and other things from a happy fat otaku. The two talked softly for a few words, and the hooded man walked towards the examination room with the examination bag. During this process, the hooded man glanced left and right. The cold face and slightly bent posture. Who else could it be if it was not the good big brother Lip Gallagher? Owen's gaze was undisguised, and Lip was very sensitive to it. When his eyes swept over here, a trace of panic appeared on his face, but then he lowered his head and walked away quickly. Haha. Owen suddenly realized, looked at Lip's figure and smiled faintly, muttering to himself, character determines destiny. Ever since Frank Gallagher suddenly had the idea of being a good father and threatened Owen, Owen did not say a word and directly used the exclusive skill of the reborn person who traveled through time and space, which can be called dimensionality reduction strike, to send Frank to prison the next day, fulfilling Owen's promise. I will never appear in front of Frank again. After that, Owen, the sagely, heard Karen Jackson say a few times when he was wandering in the world. Owen's dimensionality reduction strike was too sharp. Not only did it send Frank Gallagher to prison, but it also caused the entire Gallagher family, who were rampant with stealing and cheating, to fall apart. The house was taken away without a doubt. Although Fiona, the eldest sister, was an adult and had a job, she was not married after all. In front of the Child Protection Organization, there was no way for her to get custody of her younger siblings. So, the fourth child, Debbie, who was less than 10 years old, the fifth child, Carl, and the sixth child, Liam, were all taken away by the Child Protection Organization, leaving Lip and Ian, who were over 16 years old. Finer's lover Jimmy helped buy a house next door as a temporary residence for the Gallagher family. After being sad for a while, Finer let go and fell in love with Jimmy. Lip and Ian did not even feel sad for a whole day before they returned to normal. The Gallagher's shameless genes and shameless living habits made them all indifferent. They did have feelings for their relatives, but they would never exceed or even approach their own level, which was extremely selfish. Without the burden of Frank and the three little ones, to be honest, Lip felt freer. But in America, everything must follow the supreme law of Franklin. This is also something that the Gallagher family, whether it is the adult eldest sister Finer or Debbie and Carl, who are less than 10 years old, have deeply realized over the years. Lip, who is more free, wants to live a better life, so he naturally has to pursue more Franklin. He is still in school. During the summer vacation, he can go out with a bartender to sell indescribable things, but the summer vacation is not long after all. With his intelligence of LV4+, high school studies are too easy for him. He will naturally not waste such a long school time. SAT is the American College Entrance Examination. It is very simple for a talented person like Lip, but it is too difficult for others who want to go to college, but have an empty mind. There is a supply and demand relationship, and it is natural to trade. In fact, when Lip, who just entered high school, easily passed the SAT with a high score, he found this part-time job opportunity to make money. There are 7 opportunities to take the SAT every year, and there are 28 opportunities in the 4 years of high school. Today's American exam invigilation is not as strict as that of later generations. It is easy to take the exam for someone else, as long as you are brave enough. Of course, this is also related to the policy of American universities of lenient admission and strict graduation. Going to college is very expensive, and correspondingly, colleges make a lot of money, so they all turn a blind eye. If you want to spend a lot of money to go to college, they will naturally not deliberately make it difficult. But this is also a rule that cannot be stated explicitly. On the surface, once a substitute is caught, both the candidate and the substitute will face severe punishment. The most basic thing is that you will not be able to take the SAT exam, and your previous scores will be completely invalidated, which means that you are not eligible to go to college. Lip certainly knows the risks, but the habit he has developed since he was a child is to walk on the edge of crisis. Faced with the money to be made, he doesn't care about the big risk that his bright future may be ruined. Don't commit suicide or you will die. Therefore, after seeing Lip sneaking into the examination room as a substitute, Owen's side character really determines destiny. In the original time and space, Lip was able to take a different path from his brothers and sisters at the beginning. It was not so much because of his IQ, but rather because of the protagonist's luck and the help of various noble people. But in the end, he still messed up again and again. In the final analysis, it was because of his character since childhood, forgetting his life for small profits, and cherishing his body for big things. Borrowing Frank's words when facing Karen's temptation, "Don't tempt me, I don't want to, but I can't control it." The inability to control desire is the real reason why Lip and Frank, father and son, went from high IQ talents with bright prospects to shameless alcoholics. Chapter 52 Such a Trial. University of Chicago. The next day, the SAT-2 exam officially began. Murray State University practices small class education. There are about 30 seats in a standard classroom. The better the school, the smaller the ratio of students to teachers. Some private high schools can even reach 5:1. That is to say, one teacher takes care of 5 students and ensures that they have enough energy to educate these 5 students. This ratio fluctuates, but it will be strictly written into the school's admissions rules and is legally binding. Owen sat in the classroom waiting and looked around. This is a standard classroom with 7 or 8 students sitting in the 30-person seats. This is not surprising, because each high school student can theoretically take the SAT 28 times. With more times, the number of people in each exam will naturally not be full every time. Ding-ling-ling. After waiting for nearly an hour, the school bell rang. In Owen's surprised eyes, a graceful female invigilator came in with a test paper bag. Seeing that Owen seemed to know her, the female invigilator glanced at Owen, had no impression, and did not care, and began to enter the standard exam procedure. I'm such a genius. After getting the test paper, Owen glanced at it casually, and couldn't help thinking with a little complacency in his heart. Since he spent 50 existence points to upgrade his intelligence from the gifted LV4 to the true genius LV5, Owen's comprehension, association, calculation, memory and all other intelligence-related abilities have been comprehensively improved, and even affected Owen's thinking to a certain extent. This is only LV5. If he spends another 100 existence points to upgrade his intelligence to Sheldon's LV5+, I'm afraid that, when Owen meets Penny, he will occasionally think she's just a blonde monkey. Swish. Writing like a god. In less than half an hour, Owen had finished this difficult single-subject physics paper, and then raised his hand to indicate that he would hand in the paper early. The female invigilator looked at Owen in surprise and nodded slightly. After Owen walked out of the examination room with the exam bag, he looked back at the female invigilator outside the classroom. The female invigilator was also looking at him at this time. When their eyes met, Owen raised his eyebrows. The female invigilator was slightly startled, then shook her head slightly and laughed dumbly. As a graceful female professor at the University of Chicago, although she is middle-aged, she is still very charming, especially the strong intellectual charm on her body, which is very attractive to young people. She knows this very well. She doesn't know how many male students like Owen who are bold and proactive have met. Unfortunately, Owen is not her type. She likes the kind of literary, confused, melancholy, complicated and even dangerous boys. Otherwise, she would definitely not mind responding with her eyes first. I didn't expect that. Owen raised his eyebrows subconsciously. This was not what the female invigilator thought. He was teasing her and sending her a signal. Well, that's not entirely true. It's just that Owen's professional level has been tempered in North Shore High School for more than 2 years, and it has been integrated into his bones. His every move is natural. When he met the female invigilator, the memories and original impressions of her in the depths of his memory instantly emerged in Owen's mind, which made him instinctively raise his eyebrows. Seeing that the female invigilator had retracted her gaze and ignored him, Owen laughed and didn't care. If he hadn't met Mary Magdalene, Owen might have felt a little disappointed, but after being detained so many times by Mary Magdalene and often going to Teacher Magdalene's house to deliver beer, he already had a certain resistance. To be honest, no matter in terms of appearance, age, identity, or teaching level, the female invigilator in front of him is definitely far inferior to Mary Magdalene. That is the best goddess teacher in Owen's mind. These thoughts flashed through Owen's mind. Owen glanced at the female invigilator again, raised his lips, and turned away. 2 hours later, Katie appeared in the crowd. Sat 2 single subjects. 3 subjects are also taken together. Each subject is 1 hour, with a short break in between. Owen only needs to take 1 subject, while Katie needs to take 2 subjects, so she came out so late. How did you do? Owen greeted with a smile. Not bad. Katie replied with a smile. Owen, how about you? Very good. Owen's eyes fell on Katie. With his intelligence as high as LV5, he quickly listed Katie's wave equation and calculated the detailed data of each node. He was a little distracted, but he was holding a trial in his mind. Your Honor, Owen Evil Lee wants to eat people again. Please judge him morally. Your Honor, I object. Owen sagely always eats meat with a bowl in hand and curses his mother when he puts down his chopsticks. Please execute him. Silence. Prosecutor, where is Owen Purely? Your Honor, Owen Purely was killed by Owen Evil Lee and Owen Sagely in his previous life, and now there is grass over his grave. Your Honor, it's unjust. The prosecutor is slandering us. Owen Chunji Lee committed suicide. Nonsense. Who would choose to commit suicide for no reason? It's true, Your Honor. In the previous life, Owen Chunji Lee couldn't bear to see the suffering of all living beings, and because we have a deep connection, he was so ashamed that he couldn't think straight. Oh, this actually happened. Is this a moral decline or a distortion of human nature? Your Honor, it's all our fault. If you want to blame someone, blame you. Owen Sagely. I have no fault for the death of Owen Lee. On the contrary, because of Owen Lee's suicide, my workload in this life has increased greatly, and my schedule are almost too busy. Please, Your Honor, punish Owen sagely and let him help me share the burden. Otherwise I will really work hard until my death. What can he do to help you? Well, now that things have come to this judge will personally help Owen Lee complete his unfulfilled obligations. What? Holy shit. Your Honor, how did you transform? Why do you look exactly like us? Ahem. My real name is Owen Lee. Wait a minute, let me get in the car. What the FK? Prosecutor, you coming too? Of course. I'm Your Honor's personal assistant. My real name is Owen Lee. Prosecutor, are you sure you don't want to pick up your fallen teeth on the ground first? It doesn't matter, I will follow Your Honor all my life. Your Honor, what should we do now? It's very simple. First beat Owen Lee the sage. Tell him to get out of the way and not show up for 3 days. And then, what are you heeing about? Get out of the way. Let this judge go out. I want to talk to Katie about life and ideals first. Your Honor is wise. Chapter 53, Overwhelming. That day, Owen was very confused. He watched the alternative court trial in his heart. He was shocked by the suicide of the superego in the words of the id. What shocked him even more was that the ego, as the judge and prosecutor of the court, had fallen to the point of colluding with the id. Owen didn't know if there was such a thing in history, so he found a history book from the ego. He opened the history and checked it. In 1993 to 1994, the 2 crooked pages were full of 8 big words: morality is broken, shameless. He couldn't sleep anyway, so he read carefully for half a night, and then he could see the words between the words. The whole book was written with 2 words, cannibalism. Owen took a deep breath and murmured to himself, so there are precedents to follow. Whether it is the id, the ego or the superego, they are all me. Why should I be so persistent? Owen's confusion was solved, and he solved the wave equation that Katie had silently asked him, and listed all the solutions, because mathematics is the highest truth of the universe with no limit. Even with Owen's genius intelligence of level 5, it took more than an hour to solve all the solutions. However, Katie and Owen were very happy because both of them wanted to be mathematicians in the future, and 2 prospective mathematicians worked together to study profound mathematical problems and sort them out. What could be happier than this? Although Katie had no experience before, she had participated in the mathematical Olympiad with Owen, and she knew Owen's erudition and agility. In addition, she was a European and American girl, and she had spent 12 years in Africa with her zoologist parents, so she had a deep understanding of animal habits. To use the saying on the other side of the ocean, men and women work together, and work is not tiring. So when Owen frowned and pondered, worked hard, and used all kinds of incredible problem-solving methods to calculate the solution of the equation, Katie cooperated very well, without the awkwardness of an intern assistant. Often, Katie only needed to make a look and she would know what to do immediately. It's really profound. X2. After spending more than an hour to study all the solutions, Owen sagely and Katie Sweet Karen shouted almost in unison, "Owen, you are so amazing." Katie looked admiring. Such a profound mathematical problem was solved by you easily. With your current level, you should be at the graduate level, right? Lucky. Owen waved his hand and smiled. If it weren't for your tacit cooperation, I wouldn't even be able to touch the mystery of this wave equation. So how could I solve such a profound mathematical problem? Katie laughed, obviously very happy with Owen's modesty and praise for her. That's right. Owen casually reviewed the wave equation and asked in amazement, "Katie, this mathematical model has already involved very advanced analytic geometry. How did you come up with it?" Katie shook her head embarrassedly and didn't say anything. "Go ahead," Owen advised. "In front of mathematical science, we are all sincere. What's inconvenient to say?" Katie looked at herself, then looked at Owen, her face slightly red, and nodded. "You know that some girls are born with some advantages, right?" "Yeah." Owen nodded. "Of course, appearance, figure, temperament and other conveniences are all a kind of natural advantage. Actually, it's not like that," Katie said sadly. For most girls, I do have advantages in some aspects, but for those of us who have these advantages, the advantages are too great, which will cause us trouble. This wave equation was just what I came up with when I was upset and troubled for so many years. I thought no one could solve it. Or, before going to college, no one could solve it for me, but I didn't expect you, Owen, to be so amazing. So that's how it is. Owen suddenly realized, then smiled and said, Katie, we are all on the road to the highest temple of mathematical science. We should help each other. If you have similar questions or flashes of inspiration in the future, you must come to me, and we will study together. I will be very happy, even if we stay up all night. I want to. Katie suddenly sighed. I'm afraid you don't have time. You spend most of your time and energy on the Eternal Spear Choir. Where do you have the extra time and energy to study mathematical problems with me? Owen, I didn't want to say it, but now that you mentioned it, I still want to persuade you not to forget your ambition. You are indeed very talented in mathematics, and I know this very well. But if you always put most of your energy on the Eternal Spear Choir, then no matter how talented you are, your future achievements will be limited. After all, you are a human, not a god. Even if you are a god, your energy will not be endless. Ahem. Owen coughed dryly and thought to himself, that's because you don't know I have a system. When I accumulate enough existence points, I will be a super god with endless energy. He thought so in his heart, but even sagely did not say it to Owen's face. Instead, he nodded repeatedly and said with a smirk, you are right. In fact, I have already passed the stage of wantonly looking for inspiration. The reason why I created the Eternal Spear Choir is just to respond to those who have been provoking me in a way that is both literary and artistic. After all, I'm also a young man, and I naturally have the vigor that young people should have. Moreover, creating the Eternal Spear Choir and pursuing the national competition will be very helpful for me to go to the University of Chicago. After all, SAT is only the first round of screening in the United States. The subsequent admission screening is not something that SAT can handle. After entering college, I will concentrate on studying mathematics. I hope so. 3 months later, the first round of invitational competitions for the Illinois Mathematical Olympiad and the choir competition began one after another. Beep, beep, beep. When Irving pressed the answer button one step ahead of his opponent again and again, and accurately answered the questions, leading from the beginning to the halftime, the opponents turned pale and doubted their lives. On the choir side, the Eternal Spear Choir was completely at the level of a professional choir, crushing the opponents and shouting, impossible, cheating, definitely cheating, this is a professional choir. In the invitational group semi-finals, whether it was the Mathematical Olympiad or the choir, under the leadership of Irving, they won a crushing victory and swept all the way. In the finals, they met Carmel High School as expected. When Jess faced Irving again, his face was already very ugly. He was not as confident and arrogant as last year. Obviously, he had done his homework in advance. P.S. Thank you for the reward from I'm really shelling. The update at 12 noon was moved to 1800 hours in the evening. The traffic was too low during the Chinese New Year, and there was no recommendation. Please recommend votes and book list collection. Chapter 54. Why is there lying, if there is you? Choir Regional Finals. Backstage. The Eternal Spear Choir was just formed, and its reputation was not as good as the Adrenal Choir, which had been established for many years, and won every year, so it was arranged to appear before the Adrenal Choir. When Owen walked past the Adrenal Choir, he raised his eyebrows and smiled at Jess, who looked unhappy. Both literary and sports blossomed. When autumn comes on September 8th, my flowers will bloom and all other flowers will die. Jess Pratt had been smooth sailing in the first half of his life. He was the only one who could laugh at others from a high position. He had never experienced a situation like Owen taking the initiative to fight and being slapped in the face. His face was livid for a while, but he was speechless. It was not until Owen had walked away for a long time that Jess barely struggled out of the haze of failure. Facing Owen's back, he shouted unwillingly, I haven't lost yet. Even if you win this game, I will defeat you in the Mathematical Olympiad and let you know what a true genius is. Owen turned around, pointed at Jess, and laughed. Although Jess Crad had done his homework in advance and knew how powerful the Eternal Spear Choir was, he did not pay attention to the situation of the Mathematical Olympiad at all, because this kind of competition involving intelligence, after experiencing it once, you can clearly estimate the difference in strength between each other. Not to mention that only 1 year has passed. Even if it is a lifetime, the limit gap will never narrow, and Jess is very confident about this. Jess's eyes were red with anger at Owen's finger, because this is his classic move. Gentlemen and ladies, now please welcome North Shore High School, Eternal Spear Choir. The host's dragging voice announced the show. Girls, go. The 12 golden hairpins are all beautiful women with good figures and excellent musical talents. After Owen's legendary tuning and supreme conducting, they will naturally shock the audience every time they go on stage and receive overwhelming praise. They have already had the demeanor of a popular idol group. The Adrenal Choir members who were waiting to appear backstage listened to the cheers from the front desk again and again, and they could not wait for the other party to take a bow. They looked as hen and had no morale. Although they were a strong contender for the national competition, they were only an amateur choir of a high school after all. Compared with the Eternal Spear Choir, which could stand up to professional choirs, they were immediately eclipsed. The outcome was already certain. The Adrenal Choir was under such great pressure. In despair, everyone in the choir was in a state of uncertainty. Seeing that everyone in the audience was still reminiscing about the style of the Eternal Spear Choir just now, and not paying attention to their performance at all, the lead singer Jess Crad blushed, and was in a state of complete failure. His mind was full of the image of Owen reading his movements, and pointing at him with a cold smile. His sense of shame and anger became stronger and stronger. In the second half, he couldn't even perform normally. In the surprised eyes of the audience, Jess Crad left the stage directly. Jess. The Adrenal Choir members who remained on the stage looked at each other in bewilderment. The next day, the Illinois Mathematical Olympiad Regional Finals officially began. Both literary and sports blossomed. Before the two teams went on stage, Owen began to stimulate Jess again. How to repay kindness with evil. Complain directly, repay kindness with kindness. Jess had provoked Owen so much before, but Owen didn't have the idea of repaying kindness with evil under the joy of a great victory. Just kidding. Jess, who didn't fight back, doubted his life. How could he be considered a time traveler with a system golden finger? Captain, ignore him. He just wants to stimulate you, make you angry, and then make mistakes in the game. You must not be fooled. Yes, Captain, their strength is definitely not as good as ours. As long as we play normally, they will lose. The members of the Mathematical Olympiad team of Carmel High School obviously knew the news that Jess lost his composure and left the game yesterday. They were afraid that Jess would lose control again, so they persuaded him again and again. Jess is a genius after all, so he is not so stupid as to not understand this. In fact, after he lost his composure on the stage and withdrew from the competition yesterday, he reacted and forced himself to temporarily calm the shame and anger in his heart. He secretly told himself, the level of intelligence is the fundamental attribute of a person. The choir is just a small thing, and it doesn't mean anything at all. Well, as long as we suppress Owen throughout the Mathematical Olympiad and achieve a crushing victory, the failure of the choir will really not be a big deal. Ha ha ha, but why am I still so angry? Ha. Jess snorted coldly as a response to everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Illinois Mathematical Olympiad Regional Finals. The two participating teams this year are still North Shore High School and Carmel High School. Let us look forward to their performance tonight. Now please listen to the questions. Beep. Beep. The host hadn't finished asking the question yet, but the answer button was pressed almost at the same time. North Shore High School. The host looked at it and finally chose Owen's side, because once the intelligence was close, under the same time and the same speed of answering questions, Owen's maximum hand speed was really incomparable to Jess. Just kidding. With the LV4 warrior skills of rich combat experience exchanged by the system, and the experience of rapid typing in the previous life, Owen's maximum hand speed was completely comparable to the legendary God's Hand. Under the God's Hand, all mortals are scum. Beep. Beep. North Shore High School. North Shore High School. North Shore High School. Owen's hand was as fast as lightning, and he always got the first place, suppressing Jess without any chance to fight back. Beep. Beep. Carmel High School. 10 minutes later, Jess, with a livid face, pressed the button directly, finally getting ahead of Owen for the first time. However, when everyone's eyes fell on him, Jess realized that he couldn't answer the question at all, because the host hadn't even said the necessary conditions for the question. Carmel High School, please answer the question. The air suddenly became quiet. After Jess was stunned for more than 10 seconds, the host had to remind him. Jess was shocked, and woke up from his trance. He met the host's pity eyes. He looked around, and saw Owen's mouth curled up. The African guy was full of ridicule. His palm touched his shirt, and pretended to repeat the action of tearing his clothes last year. His teammates around him looked helpless, and the audience whispered below. Ah. It seemed that everyone was pointing fingers at him. Jess's face turned red, white, blue, and finally returned to red. Then he completely lost control. He screamed in grief and anger, spurted out a mouthful of blood, and fainted on the stage. Since there is you, why is there lying? Both literature and sports are flourishing. Penny might not understand Jess, and feel that this reaction is too exaggerated. But to explain it with Sheldon's words, you have never reached the peak of your life, so you naturally don't understand the pain of being surpassed by others when you reach the peak of your life. P.S. Thanks to Kissing with a Pacifier and book friend 201901261309417113 for the reward. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 55. The matter is over, and I'm leaving. New York. Broadway Theater. The American High School Choir National Competition was held here tonight. The judges were much higher than those in the regional competition. Super diva Britney Spears and Hollywood star Lindsay Lohan attracted a lot of attention for the national competition. The choirs that made it to the national finals from the state regional competitions were undoubtedly strong, but all the teams were still eclipsed by the brilliant light of the Eternal Spear Choir. The moon was bright and the stars were sparse. The Eternal Spear Choir was the bright moon that night. The champion of the American High School Choir National Competition is the Eternal Spear Choir. When the host announced the final result, the 12 golden hairpins went crazy. This was a national competition, and even Regina and Such were no exception. You have to know that, whether it was Regina or Such, although their families were rich, they were not rich enough to use money to help them win a national championship. What is the peak of life? Standing on the stage of Broadway, the Art Palace, watching the super divas and Hollywood actresses stand up and applaud them, and hundreds of audiences with status and position applauded crazily. The 12 golden hairpins said that this was definitely the peak of their lives that they had never dared to dream of. At this moment, Regina felt it was worth it, and was even very glad to have accepted Karen Jackson's bold idea. If it weren't for that bold breakthrough, they might not be able to enjoy the supreme glory at this moment. When everyone on and off the stage was in a frenzy, only 3 people were very calm. The first one was naturally Owen. He was just playing around. Since he beat Jess Kratt, who provoked him, to the point of vomiting blood and fainting in the last regional competition, he had lost interest in the subsequent competitions. If it weren't for the great kindness, and great virtue, of the 12 golden hairpins, and the fact that the national championship would add a halo to his resume, he might have withdrawn directly. Without desire, you are strong. With this mentality, Owen would naturally not be crazy. The other 2 people are Britney's agent and Lindsay Lohan's agent. When they look at each other, they can see the heat and hostility in each other's eyes. In the United States, agents are a very important part of the field of culture, sports, and art. They are responsible for the discovery, packaging, publicity, job acceptance, and cleanup of stars. They can be said to be the closest people to stars in terms of work. Of course, they will also extract varying proportions of fees from the income of their stars as agent commissions. The more famous their stars are, the more they earn, and the more they earn, At the level of super diva Britney and Hollywood actress Lindsay Lohan, their agents earn hundreds of millions of dollars every year. But who would complain about having too much money in their hands? The more superstars an agent has, the more powerful the agent is. Discovering future superstars in advance and bringing them under his control is definitely the dream of every agent. As the managers of Britney and Lindsay Lohan, they naturally have good eyesight. They are naturally jealous of the Eternal Spears, a choir that has already become a super idol group. Their minds are working at high speed, full of various calculations. How can they have time to integrate into the madness of the scene? Wait a minute. Just after returning to the backstage, Owen and others were stopped by two managers. Mr. Lee, hello, my name is Jerry Doc, I'm Lindsay's manager, I admire. Ladies, you are really great. My name is Tom Cotter, I'm Britney's manager. She is very optimistic about you and would like to invite you to come over for a chat. How about it? Lindsay is also very optimistic about you. Why don't you go to our place first? Seeing that the situation was not good, Lindsay Lohan's manager quickly offered up his star idol, and the two managers began to compete. Wow. Britney invited us. Am I dreaming? Stupid. Of course we are not dreaming. This is real. Britney really invited us. I prefer Britney. Me too. I like both Britney and Lindsay. It's so hard to choose. Why do we have to choose? Only children make choices. We naturally want them all. Yes. The 12 golden hairpins discussed. Owen, you are the captain. You decide. Juno, who always had a nonchalant temperament, interrupted everyone's discussion and threw the question to Owen. No. Owen shook his head and smiled. This kind of thing should be decided by you. Why? Karen Smith asked in a silly way. She was used to listening to Owen in every aspect, which really saved her a lot of brains. Owen, you guys? The shrewd Regina immediately discovered the hidden meaning in Owen's words and frowned. What do you mean? Do you want to quit the Eternal Spear? What? Owen, you want to quit? How can this be? As soon as Regina's words came out, everyone was shocked, and even the two agents looked at them with uncertain expressions. Britney's agent was okay. He was more optimistic about the 12 golden hairpins. He felt that Owen, who could only say yo 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 and was Asian, was not suitable for the Eternal Spear. Even if Owen didn't mention it, he would find a way to kick Owen out later. Are you kidding? If a nation male-led female idol group is launched in America, those American men will eat him up. Lindsay Lohan's agent was a little worried because he saw the importance of Owen's supreme conducting art and was afraid that once Owen quit, the artistry of the Eternal Spear Choir would be greatly reduced and it would no longer be able to achieve the naturalness that it had on the stage before. Yes. Owen nodded affirmatively. My ambition has always been to be a mathematician. The formation of the Eternal Spear Choir was just to fight back against the adrenal choir of Carmel High School. Now that the goal has been achieved, I naturally have to focus all my energy on my studies. TSK. Britney's agent sneered at this and said, be a mathematician? I'm afraid you don't know the significance of meeting Britney. As long as you agree, I will help you package and promote, and you will soon be famous all over the world, and you can earn countless money and fame. Do you still want to be a mathematician? Kicking Owen away, and Owen leaving on his own initiative are two completely different concepts. Although Britney's agent was happy that Owen was sensible, he still couldn't help but tease him. Of course, to be a mathematician. Owen smiled faintly. In fact, to me, money and fame have no meaning at all compared with the pursuit of exploring the eternal universal truth of mathematics. What are money and fame? P.S. Thanks to Lan Yu Feng for the reward. Chapter 56 Newbie arrives. Mega's house. Come on, let's drink. Beside the outdoor swimming pool, Mary Megar and Tiffany Lawrence held their glasses and drank with Owen in a drunken state, revealing a hint of loss and regret in their tone. Cheers. Owen shook his head slightly, but still cooperated and drank the glass of wine. All good things must come to an end. Owen even gave up the 12 golden hairpins of the Eternal Spear Choir, let alone the math instructor and the dance instructor. Indeed, whether it was Mary Megar or Tiffany Lawrence, they both had the charm that moved Owen. 1 plus 12x, x2, but he was not the male protagonist in the Stallion Harem novel, and it was impossible for him to eat from the bowl and hold on to the pot. Just as Regina saw through his true nature at a glance, he was a cloud, a free and unrestrained cloud. How could he live in a gentle place at such a young age? If he could, it would only mean that the entire multiverse had become his hero's grave. Owen, I really admire you. Tiffany lay on the beach chair, looking up and said, if anyone else had such a good opportunity to gain fame and fortune, they would never quit so simply. You really refreshed my view of you. Yeah. Mary couldn't help but agree. Owen, are you really not going to consider it again? No need. Owen shook his head and smiled. Money and fame really have no meaning to me. This is definitely not a pretentious remark, but a fact. Because of the American TV series system, Owen is destined to reach the peak in this life, and will continue to do so forever. But he must mix with the Big Bang Theory 7 in the early stage, because only their friendship can provide Owen with the existence point he needs. If Owen chooses to take the literary route and become a star, then there will definitely be an invisible gap between him and the Big Bang Theory 7. A simple example is, when Owen becomes a star, what should Penny do? If she asks him to cling to her? If she doesn't cling to her, Penny will definitely have a gap in her heart. If she clings to her, Penny succeeds. So what's the point of Leonard? You know, Penny, who has always been a waitress, and Penny, a star, are two completely different creatures. Even Penny, who has always been a waitress, took Leonard several years to succeed. This is the most brilliant research achievement Leonard has made in more than 10 years since he met Penny. If it's Penny, a star, he will cling to her for 100 years first. For another example, the friendship with the 7 members of the Big Bang Theory can only be achieved through long-term coexistence. If Owen is a star, he will hang around with Sheldon and others every day to read comics and play games. No matter how you look at it, it doesn't match. Even if Owen and Sheldon don't care, Leonard and others must have doubts and gaps in their hearts. After all, the class solidification in America is too obvious. Others all comply. Why are you so showy? What a pity. Mary shook her head slightly, looking at Owen's young and handsome face, and asked as if asking or talking to herself, you will report to the University of Chicago in a month. How do you want to spend the last month? I have always had a regret. Owen said slowly. What regret? Mary and Tiffany looked over. In their opinion, Owen was simply a winner in life. He did whatever he wanted in North Shore High School, and everyone, including them, cooperated very well. How could he still have regrets? I always thought I was very courageous. Owen raised the corner of his mouth and met Mary's eyes. I thought that, as long as I was courageous, I could let you, Mr. Major, take a vacation easily. But unfortunately, I tried so many times, but I still failed in the end. Mary and Tiffany were stunned when they heard this, and it took them a while to react, and they didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Tiffany always speaks out loud. Owen, is your scientific experiment certificate real? Of course it's real. Before Owen could speak, Mary said, Tiffany, if you think about it carefully, you will know. He never. If it's not real, I'm afraid that including us, half of the girls in North Shore High School will have to take a year off. That's true. Tiffany nodded and said, Owen, why do you think this is a pity? Do you want Mary to take a vacation? I'm just kidding. Owen laughed, but thought in his heart, I'm just paying tribute to a classic joke in my previous life. By the way, the teacher Major in front of me should be the original source of this joke. As for men who are infertile are fake men. Just kidding. This scientific experiment report is specially attached to skill 1 by the American TV system. Based on my idea, how can a being who is destined to be immortal always want children? Male gods and men are completely two different existences. According to a scientific theory, men are just the external carriers of genes. This gene wants to live forever, but the lifespan of men as carriers is limited, so they have to reproduce continuously. For thousands of years, the various similar characteristics between blood relatives are the external manifestations of this gene's longevity through reproduction. But the male god can control the genes and laws himself, and is naturally different from the gene carrier. 1995. University of Chicago. Dormitory building. Owen walked in alone, carrying his things. Looking at the girls in bath towels walking towards him, he muttered to himself, mixed sex dormitories are really good. I like mixed sex dormitories. Room 666. Owen pushed open the door and looked into the room. He felt a sense of familiarity. Owen had long been accustomed to this feeling. He didn't think much about it. He walked in and smiled and said, "Hello, I'm Owen Lee." "Hello." The handsome white boy in the dormitory quickly stood up and shook hands with him, saying, "I'm Ben Campbell." After that, he was silent. He was obviously an introverted boy. "It seems that we are roommates." Owen put his things away and smiled. "I'm a freshman in the Department of Mathematics. What about you?" "Me too," Ben Campbell said, "but I may change my department. I want to apply for medical school." "Apply for medical school?" Owen raised his eyebrows and asked in surprise, "Is it the University of Chicago Medical School?" "Yes." Ben Campbell nodded. Owen smiled. "I have a friend who is at the University of Chicago Medical School. I heard that studying medicine is very tiring." "It's okay," Ben Campbell said. "I'm very interested in medicine." Haha. Owen saw that Ben had other reasons, so he smiled and changed the subject. After chatting for a while, he became familiar with Ben. This was also an investment and a way of currying favor. "Thank you in advance for not killing me in the future. Ben, come out quickly. Let's go around the campus. Today is the day for freshmen to enter the school. All the clubs at the University of Chicago have begun to recruit new members. There are also many beautiful senior sisters." The door was pushed open, and two typical Oticus, one fat and one thin, walked in. Chapter 57 The Gap Between People. 666. "Hey, your roommate is here?" The fat man saw Irving and changed the subject, greeting him in a familiar way. "Well, this is Irving Lee, a freshman in the Department of Mathematics." Ben Campbell introduced the two parties. "Irving, this is Michael Duncan, and this is Kem Jordan. They are my good friends and freshmen in the Department of Mathematics. We were classmates in high school." The fat man Michael Duncan said, "Irving, come with us to walk around the campus. Let me tell you, there are a lot of beautiful girls in the school." He winked and looked very vulgar while saying this. This is not because the fat man is so outgoing, but because in the eyes of most American people, Asians like Irving are inherently classified as nerdy Oticus like fat men. For the same kind, fat Oticus are not as reserved and speechless as they are outside. On the contrary, some of them are even very talkative. "Okay," Irving agreed immediately. He is not a cold male god. To be honest, Michael Duncan, who has reached level 4 intelligence, was a child of other people in his previous life. He was the one that Owen looked up to. Moreover, influenced by a certain novel in his previous life, every protagonist has a fat otaku good friend at the beginning, isn't it? Good. Fat Michael tiptoed and hugged Owen's shoulders, laughing. "I will take you to see all kinds of beauties later. I have already learned everything about the school from the senior students. When I find a girlfriend, I will definitely introduce you to one." In his eyes, Owen, because of his identity and the fact that he is in the Department of Mathematics, will definitely live alone until the end of his life. This also makes him have a better impression of Owen. Just like beautiful women always like to find girls who are far inferior to themselves as their girlfriends, the fat otaku is the same. In the past, there were 3 good friends. Ben Campbell's handsome face always made a lucky home run. Ken was almost there, but he was better than him, a fat otaku. Now there is finally one who is not as good as him. What are you waiting for? Hurry up and add him to the circle of friends. "Thank you." Irving smiled slightly, but no need. "Don't be embarrassed." Fatty Michael took it for granted that he had experienced this and comforted him. "Don't lose confidence. Who hasn't suffered a setback? As long as we pay more attention and try more, we can definitely find a girlfriend." "Yeah." Skinny Ken finally spoke, and it was obvious that Irving's experience resonated with him. Irving grinned and wanted to tell them the truth, but in view of his brilliant experience, he thought about it and gave up. Otherwise this newly formed friendship boat would capsize in a minute. Hatred of the rich is a very common phenomenon, and in the fat otaku world, the attitude towards people like Irving who have a brilliant record has always been complicated. They are envious and jealous, and there is no shortage of jealous people among them. Okay. Seeing Owen speechless, Fatty Michael hurriedly pushed Owen out, saying as he walked, "Don't think too much about the past. We are already in college. This will be our new beginning. We will definitely be lucky ones. Glancing at Ben Campbell following behind him, smiling lightly and saying nothing, Owen's mouth twitched. Because he was very familiar with this smile. This was clearly a smile that looked down on others without wanting to provoke others. He also liked to smile like this. But think about it, it's normal. A handsome white boy, a real fresh meat, will still have the happiness he deserves, no matter how he mixes with fat guys. After all, in America, it is said that men and women are equal, and there are many girls who like to eat meat. In the corridor, a girl with an average appearance, but a hot body walked towards them. Fatty Michael, who had just put his arm around Owen's shoulders, pointed out the world, and wrote inspiring words, instantly stopped talking, and his head unconsciously drooped down, but his eyes were deeply attracted by the shaking picture, and he half raised his eyes to peek there. Hi, the hot girl saw the handsome Ben Campbell, her eyes lit up, and she waved to Ben as she walked by. When she passed by, she also winked charmingly. Irving and the other two were the background throughout the whole process. Hi. Ben Campbell raised his hand and smiled reservedly. See. After the hot girl could no longer see him, Fatty Michael immediately recovered his spirits, patted Irving, pointed at Ben, and said sadly, "This is the gap. Girls all like Ben's type and completely ignore us. It's normal." Irving couldn't help but say, the gap between people is sometimes greater than the gap between people and pigs. Pigs are always pigs, but people are sometimes not people. What? Fatty Michael's mouth twitched, staring at Irving, his face full of unhappiness. Even Ben Campbell and Ken Jordan looked at Irving in surprise, with unhappy expressions in their eyes. Owen looked at Michael's figure and instantly reacted and apologized. "Michael, I didn't say you." This sentence is a common saying in our East, which uses an exaggerated expression method to emphasize the gap between people. Really? Fatty Michael looked at Owen half doubtfully, and seeing Owen's sincere face, he smiled and said, "Haha, your Eastern common sayings are really interesting." Haha. Owen laughed. The four of them left the dormitory building and followed the crowd to the popular club recruitment office on campus. There were various stalls on both sides of the road, each with a nameplate: sports, art, culture, academic, and of course the most popular fraternities and sororities. "Look. Jill Taylor." Fatty Michael glanced around, caught a glimpse of a figure, and immediately shouted. Following his gaze, Owen looked over and saw a very ordinary girl walking by the side path, with no intention of paying attention to the lively scene here. Very ordinary. Owen couldn't help but say, "Hey, you have high standards." Fatty Michael said in surprise, "This is the beauty of our mathematics department this year, and also the most outstanding goddess in the mathematics department over the years. You think she is ordinary? Haha." Owen shrugged and said, "Maybe my vision is wrong, but flowers must have green leaves to set off to show her charm. After I have taken the mathematics class, my aesthetic taste will definitely be greatly improved." "That's right." Fatty Michael nodded with satisfaction, turned his head to look at Ben Campbell, and smiled obscenely. "Ben, it's up to you. Show your strength to our new friends. It's related to our welfare. Is it okay for you?" Ken also looked over with expectation. For them, they are not good enough, but it is still very exciting to watch their good friends perform various tricks. After all, they are good friends. Talking more about the process and details afterwards will make them feel more involved. Chapter 58. I'm no longer in the arena. University of Chicago. Club recruitment office. Don't be ridiculous. Ben Campbell could no longer maintain his reserved and condescending smile. He reluctantly took his eyes away from the back of the beauty of the Department of Mathematics and smiled bitterly. "How can I have any strength? I have no experience in chasing girls. In the past, girls always took the initiative. This Jill Taylor is different from those girls in high school." Fatty Michael and Ken were stunned when they heard this. Thinking back, it seemed to be true, but this sentence still gave them a 10,000 point critical hit as they were already accustomed to Ben Campbell's style. It turned out that the gap between them was even greater than they imagined. Owen stood aside, smiling lightly and looking down. In his eyes, the so-called beauty of the Department of Mathematics, Jill Taylor, was just pretty. For him, who was used to thanking those angel-faced girls for their great kindness, and virtue, he really couldn't afford a Fatty Michael hadn't lost his temper for a few seconds when his eyes were attracted by two graceful figures who walked over quickly, and he let out a light exclamation. "What's wrong?" Ben asked hurriedly. He was a genius with an IQ of LV5. In fact, he was very sensitive to the emotions of his two best friends. He reacted to the damage caused by his unconscious critical strike just now, so he kept watching the fat man and the others carefully. "It's the a cappella women's bel canto choir." Fatty Michael said before that he had already found out the information about all the beauties in the University of Chicago. He was not bragging. He signaled the two tall girls who were coming over and introduced them clearly. "The one on the left is Aubrey Camp, the new captain of the choir. The one on the right is Clara Snow, an important member of the choir. Everyone, please get out of the way. Aubrey Camp is famous for her toughness and vicious words. No one wants to mess with her." Owen heard this, and his heart moved. Following the command of Fatty Michael, the four talents dispersed and made way. Bang, bang, bang. Two tall girls walked over in high heels that were not usually seen on campus. Fatty Michael and Ken immediately lowered their heads and looked away, not daring to look directly at the two girls. Ben Campbell's eyes lit up, and he smiled shyly. Obviously, these two good-looking and tall seniors made Ben Campbell feel the friendliness of the school. Compared with Jill Taylor's aloofness, these two seniors who like art must be approachable. Owen Lee. The two girls walked to the middle of the four talented men. When the hearts of Fat Michael and Ken were pounding, and the smile on Ben Campbell's face became more reserved and shy, they looked straight at Owen with burning eyes and asked excitedly, "It's me." Owen smiled helplessly and said inwardly, "You are here to see me. What the FK?" Fatty Michael and Ken looked at each other and could see the shock in each other's hearts. Why did the two goddesses take the initiative to talk to Owen, and with such an excited expression? Ben Campbell's reserved and shy smile froze there. He opened his mouth slightly, and a trace of confusion flashed in his eyes. He was very familiar with this plot. He had encountered it before. Why is he not the protagonist this time? I said it was him. Wow. It's really you. That's great. The two girls shouted in surprise. In the envious and jealous eyes of the three talents, the more outstanding Clara Snow grabbed Owen's hand with the enthusiasm of a fan meeting his idol. "Owen, I heard that you would come to our school a long time ago. All members of our a cappella women's choir are waiting." "Yeah, not only us, but even the seniors from the previous year came here specially. If we weren't responsible for recruiting new members for the choir, we would have gone with them to greet you. I didn't expect to see you here. By the way, where are the seniors? They should be welcoming you at the welcome office at the school gate." Sorry." Owen apologized. "I'm very familiar with the University of Chicago, and I've gone through the admissions process in advance, so I went directly to the dormitory building. So that's how it is." The two girls suddenly realized. Aubrey looked at Chloe and said, "Chloe, go inform the seniors. I'll take Owen to our place, and we'll meet in the auditorium." Ahem. Owen couldn't help coughing and interrupted, "Sorry, I have to go around the campus with my friends, and I have things to do later, so I won't go with you." "How can this be?" Aubrey shouted, "You must go." Owen frowned and said calmly, "Give us a reason why you have to go." "I'm sorry, Owen." Chloe pulled Aubrey and smiled apologetically at Owen. "Aubrey didn't mean that. It's just that we have been preparing for many days to welcome you. Even those graduated seniors have come here specially. Senior Summer is getting married soon and has changed their plans to see you. We are all alumni and admire your talent very much. So I hope Owen can give you face and take the time to meet them. We are really looking forward to meeting you." "I'm sorry, Owen." Aubrey also reacted. She was just used to being domineering, not stupid. Seeing that Owen was angry, although she was reluctant in her heart, she still apologized reluctantly. Last time she messed up the competition, causing the popularity of the a cappella women's bel canto choir to plummet. If it weren't for the fact that the seniors had graduated one after another and Chloe had always listened to her, the previous captain would never have given her the position of captain of this session. If she messed up the welcome party carefully prepared by the seniors again, I'm afraid she would really be kicked out of a cappella. Although the seniors have graduated one after another, the network of people she has made friends with is still strong, especially when it comes to the a cappella choir. If she angers them, even if she is the current captain, she can't handle it. In America, personal connections are much more important than imagined, and the alumni status of top universities such as the University of Chicago is the entry ticket to this huge network of relationships. The various clubs in the university are VIP cards, and you can seek help from members of previous clubs at the right time. This is also one of the important reasons why countless students still want to join those college fraternities in European and American movies that almost humiliate the freshmen who want to join. The super mysterious clubs in America in various urban legends are all based on reality. In that case, I'll go meet them. Owen's expression eased a little, and after a moment's silence, he said, "Is it convenient to bring my friends?" "It's a bit inconvenient." Chloe blushed and declined. "Hey, these art lovers." Owen shook his head in his heart, and he had guessed that the next meeting would probably be wild. P.S. It's New Year's Eve. I wish everyone a happy New Year's Eve. Thanks to Ziz in 2017 for the reward. The author is still struggling to find time to write. Please recommend and shamelessly ask for awards. Chapter 59, The Ultimate Bachelor Night Party. University of Chicago. A cappella female choir classroom. Compared to the poor North Shore Public High School, this a cappella classroom, which is constantly funded by outstanding alumni and former members, is really grand. It is located in a single-family villa, with an entire floor connected to form a large flat. All kinds of musical instruments are placed in one corner, and the lighting stage is obviously professionally designed. When Owen said goodbye to the stunt 3 talents, and walked in under the guidance of Chloe, he looked up, and saw that all kinds of ribbons and balloons used for dances made the classroom look like a pink world. This is too grand. Owen was a little surprised. This is nothing. Chloe looked at Owen with admiration. "Owen, you are a legend in our choir world. These decorations are nothing." And, at this point, Chloe paused, hesitating a little embarrassedly. "And what?" Owen asked gently. "Actually, Aubrey didn't plan to arrange it this way at first." Chloe changed her gentleness in front of Aubrey and complained slightly. "I reminded her several times, but it was useless." Later, senior sister Summer said she wanted to come. The senior sisters discussed it and decided to use this rare gathering opportunity to hold a bachelorette party for senior sister Summer. If you ask me, how can senior sister Summer's bachelorette party compare to welcoming you, Owen? The Eternal Spear Choir you formed is simply a legend. Bachelorette party? Owen shuddered all over. Yes. Chloe looked at Owen with an apologetic face. "I'm sorry, Owen, they are so rude. I know you don't like this kind of occasion. You even quit the Eternal Spear Choir, which has a bright future, and want to concentrate on studying mathematical science. You must like quietness. If you don't want to participate, I can understand." Even knowing the reason why Owen quit the Eternal Spear Choir, Chloe is obviously a real fan of Owen. "I'll participate," Owen said firmly. HMM. Chloe was startled by Owen's determination. Ahem. Owen knew that he had lost his composure, so he quickly coughed and returned to a bright, gentle, and pure smile. "I mean, we are all alumni, and you prepared it carefully, so I must participate at least once." But in his heart, he was shouting wildly, "Are you kidding? Not participating? This is the legendary ultimate bachelorette party, and it is the bridal version that all men want to participate in, but cannot participate in. Only a fool would not participate. Whoever doesn't let me participate, I will be angry with him." "Really?" Chloe looked at Owen with a sudden change in her eyes, full of eagerness to try. "Of course it's true." Owen smiled and nodded. As a fan and practitioner of the game, he was too familiar with Chloe's eyes at this moment, but he still gave a positive answer. "First of all, this is the bridal version of the ultimate bachelorette party. Even if it is just playing flying chess all night, Owen will accept it, not to mention that not everyone is Luzaobu. Secondly, Chloe has a good look and figure. Although she is not the kind of vulgar grace, and virtue, that Owen likes, she is definitely not the right person that Owen cannot afford. Owen does not mind satisfying some of her reasonable requests. "Owen, you are so nice." Chloe was already close to Owen while speaking. As a music fanatic and a member of the a cappella choir, Chloe went to the Broadway Theater in New York to watch the finals of the American High School Choir National Competition. She was deeply intoxicated by Owen's aura of a supreme conductor when he waved the music baton. Girls are more emotional, and so are art lovers. The combination of the two makes it normal for female art lovers to be so proactive when they meet their idols. There are even crazier ones. Owen has long been accustomed to it. At this moment, the door was pushed open, and a group of girls surrounded a bright and beautiful tall beauty walked in. Owen paused, a flash of surprise flashed in his eyes, and he thought to himself, sumo, could it be? Because he was moved, he took action. Owen was very enthusiastic, and took the initiative to integrate into the a cappella. Because of Owen's legendary identity, the a cappella girls were also very active and enthusiastic, and the two sides hit it off. They were communicating about music all day. Owen stayed up until the evening with a smile, and finally saw the legendary bride's version of the ultimate bachelorette night party. Although he still played the legendary flying chess, Owen said that he had a lot of fun. Flying chess is a competitive game composed of 4 colors, with airplane graphics painted on it. Up to 4 people can play with 1 color each. There is a dice in the flying chess. You just need to turn the dice. When the dice stops, you take a few steps. This time, there are 24 members of the a cappella women's choir who came to the party. After everyone had enough food and drink, they started playing flying chess under the pink light. The basic rules include takeoff, continuous rewards, stacking, bumping, jumping, flying chess, finish line, etc. But what makes Owen smile and nod is that there are other games mixed in. For example, the classic project of Truth or Dare that makes people open their hearts, the fun project of Twister that allows people to get close to each other, and the ultimate project of King Game that can customize the scale. In his drunken state, Owen watched the 24 members of the a cappella group playing Twister there, and the 24 artificial bridges they set up. He suddenly felt inspired to write a poem. The Green Mountains are hidden in the distance, and the grass in the south of the Yangtze River is still green at the end of autumn. On the night of the bright moon on the 24 bridges, where can the beautiful woman teach to play the flute? A night of flying chess. The next day, get up. Don't make a fuss. I'm in a hurry to get married. What's the hurry? What time is it? Oh, it's only 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock. Owen was awakened by a sharp cry. He raised his eyes slightly and muttered exhaustedly, calm down, maybe it's only 4 o'clock in the morning. Swish. The curtains were suddenly opened by summer. Owen was hit by the dazzling sunlight outside, and stretched out his hand to block it, and said casually, wow, what a big moon. Senior Summer, what are you doing? Beside Owen, Chloe poked her head out from under the flying chess blanket, and said in a half-awake state, I'm late, I'm late. Summer grabbed the white gauze skirt frantically and wanted to put it on, but seeing the indescribable mess on it, she stopped moving. After a few seconds, she grabbed her head with both hands and screamed again, my wedding dress. Senior, what time are you getting married? 12 noon. Oh, then you are not late. Owen reminded kindly, you missed your wedding. Yeah. Thank you for reminding me. Summer glared at Owen and threw the wedding dress that could no longer be worn to Owen. She gritted her teeth and said madly, thank you and your family. You like the wedding dress so much, I don't want it anymore. I'll give it to you. You're welcome. Owen took the piece by piece, shapeless wedding dress and recalled last night. The corners of his mouth curled up, revealing the smile that Leonard and Leslie had when they got up early and saw Leslie sleeping beside him after spending the night together. He said casually, in my eyes, you are a princess. On behalf of my compatriots, I thank your highness for your dedicated shelter. If you hadn't opened your country's Union border, so many of them would have been stopped outside the border, without food or water, sleeping on the ground, or against the wall, and would have surely become refugees. It is you who have allowed them to live a happy life. P.S. I wish you all a happy new year, all the best, may all your wishes come true, and may your family be happy. Chapter 60, 500 Days with Summer. University of Chicago. A cappella classroom. After a hangover. Chaos. The other members woke up one by one and saw the mad Summer. They looked at each other in bewilderment. After a while, Someone reminded her weakly. Summer, do you want to call and ask first? Yes. Summer, don't worry, you are the bride, you are the boss today. Even if you are late, it will be understood. Yes, the groom loves you so much. Can't you do this little test? Call the groom first and explain it. Don't worry, we will help you. You will definitely pass it. Yes. After the reminders of the girls, Summer suddenly remembered that she was not the groom, but the bride. Her fiancé loved her so much. Wait, what happened to her? Well, just say that she had a small accident when doing her hair and ruined her wedding dress. She had to postpone the wedding. There are so many sisters to testify. He loves me so much, he will definitely believe me. Well, let's put it this way, doing hair is also to let him see her most beautiful appearance. Thinking of this, Summer walked to the mirror quickly, looking at her face in the mirror, which was full of tenderness, rosy and attractive, the kind that would make water come out if pinched, nodded with satisfaction, glanced at Owen, and thought to herself, the East really has mysterious power, but it's a pity that I can't keep maintaining it like this. It would be great if Richard didn't mind. Hey, men, they are too possessive. I'm more beautiful, and you are the ones who get the benefits. Thinking of this, Summer shook her head, twisted left and right, and continued to appreciate her beauty from all angles. After a while, she walked away from the mirror, looking back every few steps. Wait a minute, where's my phone? Where's my phone? Ah, who did it? After Summer found a perfect reason, she calmed down a little and started looking for her phone. She changed into a wedding dress late last night, so she naturally wouldn't put her phone on her body, and then there was no place to put it. While searching around, she suddenly saw a pink flip Motorola lying quietly in a large beer glass filled with beer, with a drunken face. The air suddenly became quiet. No wonder I didn't hear the groom calling. Who did this? I can't remember. It should be Owen. After all, he is the only man here. Yes, it was Owen who did it. Owen, how could you do this? Don't you know that mobile phones are not waterproof? The women condemned Owen. First it was the wedding dress, and now it's my mobile phone. Summer gritted her teeth and said, Owen Lee, you are responsible for helping me get everything done. I want to be beautiful at the wedding that originally belonged to me. Loving you is easy cause you're beautiful. Making love with you is all I wanna do. A very appropriate ringtone sounded, and everyone looked in the direction of the sound, and saw a black Nokia drunk in a large beer glass filled with beer in the same posture. Look, my phone is fine. Nokia phones are awesome. Owen took out the wet phone, and was very satisfied with the waterproof effect of Nokia. Ah. Summer fell into intermittent madness again. Don't worry, use my phone. At this time, Chloe, the only reliable one among the onlookers, handed over her phone. Thank you. Summer quickly took it and called the groom. Beep, beep. No one answered. You didn't answer the phone. That's too much. It's just a waste of time to do your hair. If you can't stand this, how can you be a good husband in the future? In my opinion, you should just ignore him for now. Who can't help it? Yeah, Sam, you're so beautiful. Richard will definitely not be able to hold back, and will take the initiative to find you. When the time comes, you can lose your temper, and when he can't bear it anymore, you can act coquettishly. This matter will pass, and he will definitely love you more in the future. The girls talked at once, and began to impart their love experiences. Owen, who was standing aside, listened with a frown on his face. He felt deeply sad for the groom whom he didn't meet, and thought to himself, brother, I didn't give you this hat on purpose, but it was because I gave you the hat that you can get rid of the heavy hat that will be weighing on you for the next few decades. So, don't be polite. Sam, don't worry, I'll make a phone call and ask about the situation. One of the long-legged beauties, whose name was unknown, simply packed up and walked over, finally remembering her duty as a bridesmaid. Ted, how's things going at the wedding? We had some problems. No, the wedding dress was torn when we were getting our hair done, and then our phones were locked in the car. We just got them out. Don't ask too much. It's not what you imagined. How's things going on your side? What's wrong? Summer was nervous. Although the girls comforted her, she was still looking forward to the wedding. After all, her current fiancé was the person she wanted to walk hand in hand with. As for why she loved him and gave him a hat, it was because we were so happy last night. The atmosphere was so good. It had nothing to do with personal morality. Besides, it was the ultimate bachelor party. It was not too outrageous to be a little bit out of line. Of course, the premise was that the groom didn't know. Oh, Summer. The bridesmaid hung up the phone and looked at Summer with pity. What happened? Summer was going crazy again. Ted said Richard ran away from the wedding. He didn't even go to the wedding. Before the wedding, he ran away with his ex-girlfriend. What? The girls were all confused by this sudden turn of events, but Owen grinned and looked at the girls' expressions, feeling inexplicably happy. Richard dared to run away from marriage? Really? It's incredible. He's such an honest person. Humph. That's what men are like. Men can't be trusted. If it were me, I would definitely catch up with this couple with scissors, castrate Richard first, and then scratch that bitch's face. The women came to their senses and began to collectively denounce men. As a man among men, Owen silently shivered on the side. Since they didn't need to go to the wedding, everyone stayed in the special a cappella classroom, accompanying the distraught Summer and constantly comforting her. Owen didn't know whether to leave or not, so he could only sit in the corner. When someone glared at him, he responded with an awkward but polite smile. He was indeed responsible for this matter. If he hadn't been surprised to see Summer and was fresh in the ultimate bachelorette party of the bride's version and hadn't taken the initiative to attack, the atmosphere last night would definitely not have been so good. I will never believe in men again. I will never have any illusions about any man again. Half a day later, just when Owen was getting impatient, Summer finally got rid of the blow of her fiancé running away first, stood up with an indifferent face, and said coldly, "Hey, men. Hey, women." Owen subconsciously hit back, and then when Summer looked at him with an indifferent face, looking at her familiar and stunning face, his heart moved, and he murmured, "It can't be such a coincidence." In the movie 500 Days with Summer, Summer deeply stimulated the male protagonist in a painful way. It is said that she was hurt by her boyfriend before and no longer had any illusions about men. Did I witness history with my own eyes? Thinking of this, Owen's mouth curled up and he felt happy. Compared with the male protagonist in the movie, Owen's performance in 500 Days with Summer P4 was still quite outstanding, and he definitely made all men proud. P.S. Thanks to the Black Square and BBO Treasure for the reward. Chapter 61. Coffee Devil in the Library. University of Chicago. School library. Night. A pretty white girl, sitting in an empty study room, holding a book, so thick that it makes people doubt their lives, buried her head in it, and on the table was an oversized cup, emitting a strong smell of coffee. Oh, a slight whine came from the opposite side, and the pretty white girl looked up and saw a tall blonde beauty with her hands on her head, looking distressed. "What's wrong, Isabel?" Bianca, neurology, endocrinology, reproduction, and immunity are really difficult. The blonde beauty Isabel slammed the same big book shut and complained, "I'm already a senior, and I'm about to apply for the MD exam in medical school. The competition will be very fierce then, and I can't handle it recently. Isn't that the case for all medical students?" Bianca picked up the coffee cup and took a gulp. She smiled and said with a smile, "Your grades are already very good, and your speed of improvement is among the best in medical school. Now all you have to do is grit your teeth and persevere. My foundation is still a little weak." Isabel sighed. "After transferring here, I don't have as much time to study as you do. My part-time job consumes too much of my time and energy. The tuition for 4 years of undergraduate studies is already so expensive. If I can't apply for a scholarship for the MD in medical school, even if I get an offer, I won't be able to get in." Hearing the tuition, Bianca smiled bitterly. Undergraduate studies are better. The tuition plus living expenses are about $50,000 to $60,000 a year. But for an MD in medical school, you can't study for 4 years without $300,000 or $400,000. There are still 3 to 8 years of residency. Although you can get a salary at that time, the salary is not high, just enough for yourself to live on. If you save a little, you can only pay back $10,000 or $20,000 a year. This loan of hundreds of thousands of dollars, under normal circumstances, will take more than 10 years to pay off completely. Isabel lay back and said to herself, MD in medical school plus residency, plus more than 10 years of loan repayment, almost 25 years. Oh, God. By the time I pay it off, I will be almost 50 years old. This is the journey of an ordinary doctor. Bianca was comforting both her and herself. Once you perform well enough in the internship stage and stay in a large hospital with very good treatment, the pressure will be much less. Besides, there is a lot of room for advancement in large hospitals. As long as you are promoted to attending physician, the income will be very generous and you can pay off the loan in a few years. I hope so. Isabel nodded. If it doesn't work, I'm going to work part-time as a model. My agent recently contacted me about a magazine print advertisement, and I'm considering whether to take the shot. What magazine? Bianca asked curiously. Bethany, honey. Isabel covered half of her face and said a little embarrassedly, wow. Bianca was stunned, then looked at Isabel's tall figure and exclaimed, your figure is really better than that of the average Bethany honey girl. The pay for this kind of underwear model will be very generous, right? Yeah. Isabel said excitedly. The other party knew that I was preparing to apply for the MD of the medical school and proposed that, after I become a prospective doctor, they would plan and shoot a series of hot female doctors for me. You know, those men like this kind of tune. Heh, men. Bianca agreed with a pout. Buzz buzz buzz. The phone on the table vibrated. Bianca picked it up and hung up directly. Why didn't you answer it? Isabel said in surprise. I don't want to answer it. Bianca frowned and said, remember what I told you about our family situation? Remember? Isabel nodded. Her eyes lit up and said, by the way, the little brother Rowan you mentioned was admitted to our University of Chicago. School has started now. Is he looking for you? Yeah. Bianca said unhappily. This guy. I originally thought he was a pure and innocent little beast, but I didn't expect that when he entered high school, the innocence was gone. Only the little beast was left. I'm embarrassed to tell you. Yesterday he started school, and my mother called me to take him around the campus. I rarely cleared half a day and waited for him here, but I waited for a long time and didn't see him, so I called him. Do you know what this guy is doing? What is he doing? Isabel asked curiously. He actually went to the a cappella party. Bianca rolled her eyes and said, when I called, I could tell what they were doing from the noise over there. It's been more than a day and he just finished his first day of school. He still wants to find me? Humph, I don't have time to deal with a beast like him. Wow. Isabel's eyes lit up. I remember a cappella is a girls' choir. Why would they invite him? From your tone, they sound very enthusiastic. Very enthusiastic. Bianca pouted and said, I don't know what's wrong with this guy Owen. He always wanted to be a mathematician, but he has an incredible talent in music. Have you heard of the Eternal Spear Choir? Of course. Isabel nodded and said, this is the hottest new girls choir this summer. It is very popular among young people. I've heard of their newly released single. It's very nice, especially the lead singer Karen Jackson. Her dolphin sound is really shocking. This Eternal Spear Choir was initiated and formed by Owen. Seeing Isabel praising the everlasting spear so much, Bianca felt proud in her heart, even though she didn't say anything, and her expression eased a lot. He is the soul of the everlasting spear, but because he wanted to study mathematics wholeheartedly, he decisively withdrew from the temptation of fame and fortune. Therefore, the outside world doesn't know him, but in the music industry, he is a legend and a true idol in the eyes of many music fanatics. Can you imagine what kind of enthusiasm those fanatical fans will burst out when they see their real idols? Isabel was dumbfounded, and all kinds of scenes from 18 Bang to 80 Bang emerged in her mind. After all, she was an outsider in the entertainment circle with an agent. Even if she hadn't experienced it, she had heard of. Why are you here? At this moment, Bianca looked behind Isabel in surprise. I've heard from Aunt Lisa that you often hang out in the library, drinking coffee and staying up late to read. Owen glanced at the oversized coffee cup next to Bianca and shook his head. You're studying medicine. Don't you know that drinking too much coffee can cause cancer? What's wrong with you? Bianca glared at Owen and said angrily, since a summer vacation 2 years ago, as soon as you saw me, you told me to take care of my health and have regular physical examinations, as if you knew I would definitely get cancer. Damn it. Haha. Owen smiled and said nothing, thinking to himself, because I took one look at you, and I knew you would be a crazy female doctor in the future. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 60 To the Past and Present Life of the Good Girl. School Library. Facing Bianca's questioning, Owen's mind was full of thoughts. Human memory is self-consistent. Two people who have been together for a long time are not sensitive to each other's changes, because as long as it is not a serious illness, all kinds of changes are gradual. It is impossible to become fat in one bite. Because of this, Owen has not reacted. Bianca Samson, the youngest daughter of the Samson family where he lives, is actually the female resident doctor who suddenly got cancer in Shameless. Think about the original plot. Because the cancer came too suddenly, it was already in the late stage of cancer. Bianca herself is a doctor and knows how high the probability of death is in the late stage of cancer. Even if various operations are performed in turn and barely survive, the quality of life is also despairing. She is used to the pain of patients and really has no courage to face this tragedy herself. So, her choice is to give up treatment. Under the instigation of the old bastard Frank Gallagher, she changed her previous image of a good girl and went crazy. She bought things from street thugs and imitated the plots of D in movies and TV, boldly teasing street thugs. Lying on the train tracks with Frank Gallagher late at night, she was naked and indescribable. When the train was coming fast, she held Frank down to prevent him from moving. If Frank hadn't turned over desperately in the end, the two of them would have been hit by the train and died. This obviously suicidal action scared even Frank, an old bastard with ill intentions. In order to avoid the persuasion of relatives such as Lisa, Jack, and Elizabeth, Bianca flew abroad and rented a seaside cottage to face the last days alone. Frank followed her shamelessly. Bianca asked Frank to buy a big pistol. After an indescribable incident, she directly threw Frank Sage Gallagher, picked up the pistol, called Sage, and in Frank's horrified eyes, he pointed the gun directly at her temple and pulled the trigger. Just like playing Russian roulette, Bianca did not load all the bullets, but left a few empty spaces. Obviously, she still had some desire to survive in her heart. This time, the suicide was unsuccessful, and it also successfully consumed the courage that Bianca had accumulated during this period. It is better to live a miserable life than to die. Suicide and the like are just temporary courage. When you fail, all that is left is endless fear. Bianca is obviously the same. When Frank rushed over and took the gun away, Bianca cried and held her head. Then she spent the next period of time in peace. As the various symptoms of cancer came one after another, Bianca, who was constantly tortured, once again thought of death. One morning, when Frank was still sleeping soundly, Bianca walked out of the cabin, came to the beach, took off her clothes, and put them away, and walked calmly into the depths of the sea, and there was no trace of her anymore. When Frank woke up and found out, he was sad and painful. Because for him, Bianca was young and beautiful, and Kari had money. The most important thing was that, because she had cancer, she was willing to spend crazily under his arrangement. He could not afford the good wine before, but now he could drink it whenever he wanted. The happiness of living a life of drunkenness and dreaming even made him have the illusion that they were true love. But the old bastard was an old bastard after all. Not long after he was sad about the death of true love, he was occupied by a wave of anger. Why can't you hold on for a little longer? Even if you vomit every day, feel weak, in pain, and feel dazed, so what? Aren't we true love? For the sake of me, your lover, shouldn't you hold on? Now you've died happily, and I'm going back to the embarrassing situation of desperately looking for alcohol to drink, you bitch. The old bastard who fell from heaven to hell was angry at Bianca's betrayal and ran to Bianca's grave to have a good time. Because of the inspiration Bianca gave him, he took the initiative to hook up with other female doctors. Unfortunately, without the help of cancer, how could he, a tramp, get the favor of elite women? He almost caused an ethical tragedy. Owen guessed that, if it wasn't too challenging to human nature, morality, and law, with Frank's shamelessness and lack of self-control, this kind of tragedy would be very likely to happen in the dark corners of America, because there are many similar reports in reality. These plots are definitely classic shameless plots in Shameless. Therefore, in his previous life, when Owen browsed with an attitude of contempt and condemnation, he even searched for some related discussions. The memory is quite deep. 2 years ago, Bianca went to college and studied hard, so she didn't come back during the summer vacation. When they met again, a whole year had passed. After a long separation, time erased the previous self-consistency. When the somewhat unfamiliar Bianca reappeared in front of Owen, the strange and familiar impact immediately awakened Owen's memory, and then he recognized her. The Sampson family is kind to Owen, and they really treat him as a member of the family. Knowing that Bianca will get cancer in the future, Owen naturally reminds her to try to reduce the risk of cancer. If it is unavoidable, it must be discovered in the early stage to ensure that it can be treated. However, it is difficult to detect cancer in the early stage. Cancer cells always lurk silently and slowly grow and become tumors. Therefore, prevention is the most important link. Owen thought about it for a long time, and he could only think of Bianca, who often had to drink a lot of coffee to boost her spirits, because she was studying medicine. Coffee is irritating after all, and raw sting will also produce a suspected carcinogen called acrylamide. 4 years of undergraduate study, 4 years of MD in medical school, and 3 to 8 years of residency. If you drink a lot of coffee like this, there is still a chance of cancer. Therefore, just like persuading girls to drink more hot water is useless and will be disliked, Owen can only remind Bianca to drink less coffee as soon as they meet to prevent cancer. Bianca, why don't you introduce me? Isabel, who was ignored, couldn't help but remind her. If you ask me, it's better not to introduce me. Bianca snorted, this guy's not a good person. Isabel, stay away from him, otherwise if your belly suddenly gets big one day, you won't be able to shoot the hot female doctor series of photos. Owen Lee. Isabel Stevens. Hey, there's a story. Owen's eyesight had long been trained among a sea of flowers. When Bianca mentioned that her belly was big, the panic that flashed in Isabel's eyes did not escape Owen's eyes. With a move in his heart, he looked Isabel up and down calmly. The familiar feeling in his mind emerged again, and he thought to himself, this is probably a character in a European and American film or TV series. P.S. Thanks to Dayu for the reward. Chapter 63 College Mathematics Course. University of Chicago. On the tree-lined path. After saying goodbye to Isabel, Owen and Bianca walked out of the library and strolled around the campus. Owen, Isabel is my good friend, so you understand. Understand what? You are not allowed to harass her. What am I in your eyes? Owen's mouth twitched, and he said speechlessly, what do you think? Bianca rolled her eyes and said, you used to be a pure little beast, but later you lost your innocence. Now I can only describe you as a humanoid self-propelled artillery. Got? What's wrong with you? What do you mean what's wrong with me? Owen said speechlessly, you are gifted and energetic, and you blame me? I have never harassed anyone, and I have always been the target of harassment. I'm also very distressed. Facing so many beautiful girls who are so enthusiastic that they are about to explode. Any man can only grit his teeth and persevere. What can I do? Bianca was shocked by Owen's shamelessness and was speechless. She had been a good girl since she was young. After graduating from high school, she thought she could enjoy a happy college life. Unexpectedly, the hardship of medical students was far beyond her imagination. For a bright future, she had to give up the legendary wonderful college life and continue to study. Her social circle was actually very narrow, so she had never met someone as shameless as Owen. Owen was more restrained before, but after Bianca pointed out his true nature, he was too lazy to cover it up. I'm who I am, a different fire. Bianca, how is your relationship with Isabel? Owen asked. After a simple greeting in the library just now, Owen had already brainstormed With his genius intelligence now upgraded to LV5, his memory is not as good as the male protagonist in Endless Who Krypton NZT48, as if he opened the forbidden area of God, nor as good as Sheldon, who had almost complete memory after he was born, lying in the crib, watching his parents having sex, but he can also do it, as long as he has seen it, and thought about it carefully. He can remember most of it. Very good. What's wrong? Bianca looked over with a wary look. Hello Kitty? Owen asked tentatively. What? Bianca was startled. Then her eyes widened suddenly, and she shouted in disbelief. How did you know? Because of their good relationship, Bianca naturally knew some of Isabel's privacy, such as the cute Hello Kitty tattoo on her waist. At that time, she was curious, and played with Isabel for a while, before removing her panties, and taking a closer look. Outsiders would never know unless. Don't tell me that you and Isabel have met before. Bianca gritted her teeth. Of course not. Owen had confirmed his guess in his heart. This Isabel was really the model female doctor who took underwear photos in Grey's Anatomy. I think I've seen her somewhere before. Is she a part-time model? Yeah. That's right. It's normal for models to show their private parts when they are walking on the runway, isn't it? Really? Bianca also began to hesitate, because what Owen said was indeed true. Models make their livings with their figures. All kinds of short, thin, and hot clothes are their professional attire. It's possible that they accidentally show Hello Kitty. No. How come your eyesight is so good? Even if it was accidentally exposed, it would definitely be a flash. Why did you see it so clearly? Haha. Owen showed a pure and shy smile. Dormitory 666. Wow. Owen, you're finally back. You've been here for a whole day and a whole night. Buddy, you're awesome. How was the a cappella girl choir party? Was it fun? Was it full of beauties? Tell us the details. Owen had just pushed the door open when he saw the fat man Michael coming up to him excitedly. Ken was a little reserved, but he also stood up and looked at Owen. His roommate Ben Campbell sat there with a dull expression, occasionally glancing at Owen with displeasure in his eyes. Michael, I just went to meet them. They're all music lovers. We had a friendly exchange and then left. It's not what you thought. What did I imagine? Fatty Michael had a mean smile on his face, which matched his fat face. He looked very mean and funny. He obviously didn't believe Owen's perfunctory attitude. In his eyes, no man could resist the charm of young girls, especially when these girls were so proactive. He had no power to resist. Owen was also a man, and of course he was no exception. Owen paused. Although he didn't want to admit it, he had to say that Fatty Michael's perception of him was really accurate. He was indeed that kind of man. Fatty Michael kept pestering Owen, wanting to hear the details. Owen was so annoyed that he could only use the spring and autumn style of writing to describe a corner of the along the river during the Qingming festival in a light and fleeting manner. It was a scene that was completely within the normal range. But every fat otaku has a powerful imagination, and the pictures in his imagination even surpass the complete along the river during the Qingming festival, with all kinds of indescribable. His Fatty Michael took a breath of cold air, twisted his body unconsciously, bent slightly, and coughed dryly with a hot face. Ahem. It's getting late. We'll leave first. Come back to play tomorrow. Ben, lend me this book to take back, and take a look. As he said, he picked up a book on the table, and put it in front of him, even holding it upside down, and rushed out of the 666 dormitory quickly. Ken did the same thing. After the two left, the air suddenly became quiet. Owen saw Ben Campbell's complicated inner feelings at a glance. It was probably because of the frustration in his attractiveness to women and the fact that two of his best friends were particularly enthusiastic about Owen. But he didn't have the patience to smile in exchange for friendship. He just smiled and nodded at Ben Campbell, and then he was busy with his own things. The next day, in the lecture hall. Now, who can explain Newton's algorithm and its application? A middle-aged man in a suit, short in stature, with a receding hairline, a Western gentleman's smile, and a shrewd look in his eyes, stood in front of the big blackboard, holding a piece of chalk, wrote a line of mathematical formulas, and then turned around, strolling in the middle aisle of the lecture hall, opening his hands to ask questions, and signaling the mathematics students on both sides to answer. Can you use it to solve nonlinear equations? Fatty Michael raised his hand and answered. Well said, it's really good, I'm so surprised. The middle-aged professor first praised a few words, then changed the subject, and threw the chalk in his hand at Fatty Michael. I almost forgot that my class is called nonlinear equations. Ha ha ha. XN. Everyone laughed, and was amused by the middle-aged professor's wit and humor. Owen, who was sitting on the left side of the classroom, looked at the middle-aged professor who was swaying freely, and a meaningful smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Chapter 64 Choice. University of Chicago. In the lecture hall. Okay, now does anyone have something to say that I don't know? The middle-aged professor walked back to the podium and looked around at all the students. As if he had sensed the gaze that was different from everyone else's, he stayed on Owen the longest and asked, anyone? Newton plagiarized it? Ben Campbell raised the pen in his hand and said hesitantly. What did you say? The middle-aged professor looked over. Newton plagiarized it. Ben Campbell's tone became affirmative. Joseph Raphson published the same method 50 years ago, and if the initial value deviates too far from zero, this method will not apply. Excuse me, what's your name? The middle-aged professor looked admiring, took a few steps forward, came to Ben Campbell's side, and asked. Ben Campbell. Ben. The middle-aged professor nodded and continued. So, Ben proposed that Joseph Raphson was the founder of this method. If it is true, why is he unknown? Of course, on the one hand, Newton did a better job in publicity. On the other hand, since 1700 AD, we know very little about Raphson, except that he discovered the cabana cult 300 years earlier than Madonna. Ha ha ha. XN. This humorous ridicule, because it involves the most popular singer Madonna, once again caused everyone to laugh. Okay. The middle-aged professor spoke up, interrupting everyone's laughter, and continued the previous topic. Then now we give Ben a chance to get extra points. How about it? Professor Rosa? Yes. What's your name, classmate? Do you have any comments? Seeing Owen raised his hand to interrupt him, Mickey Rosa's eyes flashed and asked with a smile. My name is Owen Lee. Owen ignored Ben's slightly resentful look and calmly suggested, I think each of us has a chance to get extra points. Why don't we just answer the questions quickly? That's fairer, isn't it? In America, the regular grades in college classes are still very important. Although he knew that Professor Mitch Rosa wanted to test Ben Campbell and didn't want to provoke him, Owen had no intention of letting go of the opportunity to get extra points. As for Ben Campbell's mood, sorry, she is neither Owen's friend nor a stunning beauty. The grace of not killing a roommate alone cannot affect Owen's decision. After all, this is a positive universe centered on the Big Bang Theory. Just like the football team members just took the initiative to admit defeat. Even if Ben is angry, he has no way to target Owen. Therefore, why should Owen care about the other party's mood? Okay. Professor Mickey Rosa looked at several boys and girls in the classroom, and the smiles on their faces became brighter, since Owen made a very fair quick answer suggestion. The next question will be answered in the form of a quick answer, to decide who will get the extra points. Let's call this game the host's problem. Classmates, suppose you are participating in a game show, and you have the opportunity to choose one of 3 different doors. Behind one of the doors is a new car, and behind the other 2 doors are goats. Which door will you choose? Door number 1. Door number 2. There is no need to answer this question quickly. It is just a prerequisite. There is no difference between door number 1, door number 2 and door number 3. Owen and Ben Campbell made their choices respectively, and the others silently became spectators. Very good. Professor Misello continued. At this time, the host, by the way, he knows a secret behind the door, and he decides to open another door. For example, he opens the 3rd door, and there is a goat behind it. Now, the host walks towards you. The host says, do you want to stick to your previous choice, or make a new choice? Now the question is it in your interest to change your choice? Choose again. Owen said firmly. Ben Campbell was a little slow and also said, yes, I will choose again. Remember, the host knows where the car is. Professor Miselosa glanced at Ben Campbell and Owen, and asked Owen to answer first in order. Owen, how do you know he is not playing a trick on you? Maybe he is just using the rebellious psychology to make you choose a goat? It's very simple. Owen shrugged and said, I don't care what he thinks. My decision to choose again is based entirely on the most true mathematics. To be precise, it is statistics in mathematics, based on changes in variables. Changes in variables? Professor Misalosa paused slightly, a smile flashed in his eyes, and asked, but the host only asked the simplest question? Yes, but this question changes everything. Tell us about it. It's really a blow to the aura of lowering intelligence. Owen looked around, and saw many geniuses in the mathematics department. Except for a few special people, everyone else looked at Owen with an expectant look at Owen's answer. You know, this is just the simplest math problem. On the other side of the ocean, even excellent elementary school students might be able to answer it. An inexplicable sense of superiority came over him, and Owen said with a smile on his face, it's very simple. When he asked me to choose a door at the beginning, I had a 33.3% chance of choosing the right one. But when he opened a door and asked me to choose again, I chose a new door, and the chance of choosing the right one was 66.7%. Of course, I have to choose again, and thank him for giving me an extra 33.3% chance. Absolutely correct. Professor Midcrosa smiled at the men and women in the classroom again, and then clapped his hands and said, remember, if you don't know which door to choose, always consider the change of variables. In this case, because of paranoia, fear, and emotionality, most people will not change their choice, but Owen put his emotions aside and let simple mathematics earn him a new car, which is much better than riding a goat around the campus. Well, that's all for today, thank you very much. After the class, everyone swarmed out of the lecture hall, as they had other classes to attend. Professor Midcrosa walked to the podium and found Owen's resume on the student list. He saw the score of mathematics second and the award description of the mathematics competition, and nodded slightly. Then he found Ben Campbell's resume, which was also excellent. He saw Ben's performance just now. He knew that Ben could also answer this question, but Owen answered it first. Now, because of a special cause, he will make a choice between Owen and Ben. P.S. Thanks to Ziz in 2017 for the reward. Chapter 65 Beta Brotherhood. University of Chicago. Dormitory 666. I can also answer Professor Osa's question. Ben Campbell was silent for a long time, and suddenly said something. Of course you can, Ben. Fatty Michael immediately agreed. As sensitive as he was, how could he not see the subtle estrangement and friction between Owen and Ben? Ben was his good friend for many years, and Owen's legendary experience could open his mind and enrich his imagination. Therefore, he really didn't want there to be a conflict between the two, but now things were developing in a direction he didn't like. I hate him. Ben Campbell couldn't help but add. Fatty Michael and Ken looked at each other, looking at each other in bewilderment. This was almost a disguised way of asking them to take sides. They really didn't expect Ben to dislike Owen so strongly, and they didn't know how to respond for a while. Knock, knock. Fortunately, at this time, there was a knock on the door. Ken. Fatty Michael commanded. Why me? Ken muttered, walked to the door and opened it. Ah. Ken was stunned on the spot. Wow. Fatty Michael looked up and saw a row of girls standing on each side of the dormitory door. Each girl was wearing a light t-shirt and a miniskirt. She put her hands on her exposed waist and looked at them with a sweet smile. Is this Owen Lee's dormitory? Yes. Fatty Michael nodded immediately. He had learned all kinds of internal information about the University of Chicago from senior students in advance, so he already understood what was going on. As soon as he finished speaking, the two rows of girls automatically dispersed. Boys, welcome to school. On the opposite staircase, a boy and a girl were sitting. It was more like pretending than kissing there. When the two rows of girls automatically dispersed, the boy turned his head and greeted them with a cool smile. Thank you, thank you. Fatty Michael's fat face was already smiling like a flower. Follow me. The boy stood up, hugged the girl dressed coolly, and walked out with everyone, just in time to meet Owen, who had returned from outside. Owen. Fatty Michael shouted in surprise. Hey. The cool guy in the lead looked at Owen in surprise. You are Owen Lee, the legend in the music industry, the Owen Lee who spent the night with the a cappella girls choir? What's going on? Owen looked at Fatty Michael. It's like this. Fatty Michael smiled guiltily and said, "This is Wesley Stifler, the president of the Beta Brotherhood. He sincerely invites us to attend the Beta Brotherhood party together. Owen, let's go together?" "Okay." Seeing Fatty Michael's begging eyes, Owen thought it would be good to go and see it, so he nodded and said, "Thank you for the invitation, but I may not choose to join. Our Beta Brotherhood is not something you can join just because you want to." Wesley raised his head and said, "After you have seen the party in our Beta house, you will definitely take the initiative to ask to join. I promise." Haha. Owen smiled slightly and did not mean to refute. He was asked to go through all kinds of shameless challenges, including issues involving dignity and other bottom lines, just to pick up girls? This is a joke. Is he the kind of person who is short of Italian shells? He has a 2nd battalion's worth of ammunition. Beta House. The Beta fraternity's gathering place. It is also a single family villa, donated by a wealthy member of a certain class of the Beta fraternity, and the right to use it belongs to the Beta fraternity. How could I lie to you? It's true. Most sororities will not accept girls without 3-star experience, because that proves that you can't adapt to team life. Wesley, the president of the Beta fraternity, held a cool junior girl on one hand, and while walking, he instilled the truth into them, paving the way for his evil plan in disguise. Only by letting go of your whole heart can you become good sisters. Do you understand? Really? While the girl on the left was giggling, obviously seeing through Wesley's plot, the naive girl on the right was taking it seriously. Of course. Wesley leaned his head close to the naive girl's ear and said affirmatively, "If you want to join a sorority, Maggie and I can provide the necessary training and help." Okay. The naive girl thought for a moment and readily agreed. Yeah. Wesley straightened up and pulled in his stomach, making a victory gesture, looking back at Owen and the others with a smug smile on his face. "Fuck." Fatty Michael exclaimed, as expected of the president of the Beta fraternity. This speed of picking up girls, this posture of picking up girls, is really awesome. Ken's eyes were on the cool girl in front of him, and he was in a trance, and he didn't hear Fatty Michael's sigh at all. Ben Campbell also had a face full of envy. Although he was never short of girls around him, he had never challenged such a difficulty. They were all men, and there was only one possibility, if he said he was not envious. Owen, who smiled faintly and said nothing, was the only possibility. After experiencing the 12 golden hairpins of the eternal spear and the moonlit night of the 24 bridges, Owen already has enough resistance. How could Owen take a mere 3-star Owen seriously? A large group of men and women holding paper cups filled with beer gathered in front of the Beta house. "This is just a small matter, follow me in." Wesley noticed Owen's calmness and wanted to shock Owen, so he directly invited everyone to enter the Beta house, which was already full of people. The dynamic DJ surrounded the entire room. On the stage, 7 or 8 hot-dressed female college students were dancing hot dances there, igniting the temperature of the scene. Wow. Fatty Michael had never seen such an exciting scene in real life. His mouth opened wide, and he stood there in a daze. "How is it?" Wesley smiled proudly. "Beta House never disappoints, never. Look at this." As he spoke, he took a bottle of beer from the bar and said to the girl in a miniskirt closest to him, "Stacy, I can't open the beer can. Can you help me?" Hiss. 3 gasps came out of the fat trio, and even Owen was surprised. He had heard of this kind of play in his previous life, but he had never really seen it. Now he saw with his own eyes that the girl in the miniskirt took the beer bottle and opened it in an indescribable way. I have to say that it was really eye-opening. "Thank you." Wesley thanked the girl in the miniskirt and then looked at Owen. "How is it? These little fitness tips are still very useful, aren't they?" Useful. Before Owen spoke, the fat man Michael had already nodded in agreement and then asked with eager anticipation, "Wesley, how can we join the Beta Brotherhood?" Everything in front of them has completely conquered them. P.S. Thank you Mr. Bay for the reward. Chapter 66. The son of a wealthy family cannot sit in the hall. University of Chicago. Nerd fraternity. Ladies and gentlemen, this university has fallen into depravity. Sex, alcohol, stupidity, and vulgarity have filled this school. This should be a respected top university. In a high-tech conference room on campus, a man in a suit and glasses stood at the main seat and talked freely. At the conference table, there were nerds sitting one after another, but what was different was that there was a hot beauty standing behind each nerd. The man in the suit and glasses was no exception. A girl dressed as an assistant took over and said, "We are here to announce the arrival of a new era for this university. The value of a student is no longer determined by the alcohol concentration in his body, but by his GPA. We established this fraternity to change the country's view of nerds." The man in the suit and glasses said, "But history has proved that when a new civilization emerges, another one must be destroyed. In this school, the other one is the Beta fraternity. We must destroy them." Beta fraternity. Fatty Michael strongly requested to join the Beta Brotherhood, but Wesley ignored him and looked directly at Owen. "How about it? Do you still want to join now?" "Sorry." Owen smiled slightly. "This still doesn't impress me. Compared with the quality of the girls in the Nerd Brotherhood, the girls here know some small recipes, but they are not suitable as the main course." Nerd Brotherhood. Wesley's face changed, and his body leaning on the bar suddenly stood up straight, and asked in a bad tone, "Did they invite you too?" "Yeah." Owen nodded and smiled, "But I didn't agree either." "You were right not to agree." Wesley's face relaxed, and he said disdainfully, "They are just a group of nerds. Even if they have wealth that we can't imagine, they can attract those girls who have no vision, but want to build nests on these future millionaires. But when it comes to the level of play, they can't compete with our Beta Brotherhood at all. Our Beta Brotherhood has been passed down for nearly 100 years. Haha." Owen laughed and didn't comment. "Just kidding. The gamma play can be popularized quickly, but for appearance, there is no way to change it except by surgery, blinding oneself, and turning off the lights." At this moment, the lights and speakers in the beta room went out, and it became dark, causing nearly 100 girls in the room to scream in unison. "Not good." Wesley's face changed drastically, and he quickly turned on the decorative lights, rushed to the bar, and shouted, "Everyone, be quiet, don't panic. We just encountered a small technical problem. It's nothing serious, it will be fine later." For an alcohol party, without speakers, it is definitely a disaster level event. If it is not handled well, it will be very hurtful, especially when there is a nerdy fraternity watching covetously. With one turn, the Beta fraternity may fall into a vicious cycle. The first choice of girls is no longer the Beta fraternity, and all boys have always followed girls. This is why girls can enter almost all bars for free, because there must be girls to continuously attract those boys who want to hunt for beauty, to buy tickets and enter. "I don't think so." A proud male voice sounded, and everyone looked in the direction of the voice, and saw a man in a suit and glasses walking in from the door, surrounded by members of the nerd fraternity. "Wesley, your outdated circuit has short-circuited, and your music will not be back all night, and according to our calculations, the alcohol you provided is almost finished." Wow. As soon as these words came out, there was an uproar at the scene. If the music was stopped, it would be a catastrophic event. Then the alcohol was cut off, which would definitely be an extinction event. After all, without music, you can drink alcohol, and drinking until you are dizzy has a similar effect. But without alcohol, what reason do girls have to indulge themselves? And when the girls became reserved one by one, boys like Owen were fine, but those boys who were ugly, had no special skills, and had no eloquence, didn't even have a chance to play, let alone a home run. "Don't make a fuss, it's okay, we'll make up for it right away," Wesley said calmly. "Maybe it can be like this." The man in the suit and glasses said loudly, "Everyone can go to our place. Our stock is enough for everyone to drink for a whole week. There is also champagne for you to drink, a heated swimming pool and enough swimsuits. Now you can choose." After that, the man in the suit and glasses walked to Owen in front of the crowd, raised his glasses, shook his head and said, "Owen Lee, you should have chosen us, but it doesn't matter. It's your vision that is not good. How can people with poor vision join us? Did I say I want to join you?" Owen couldn't help but complain. "Humph." The man in the suit and glasses snorted coldly, and led everyone back to the nerd house. "Good brother." After everyone left, the beta house was empty in an instant, with only a few drunk beta brothers lying there. Wesley was quite depressed, but after hearing Owen's complaints, he was still excited. "Owen, I sincerely invite you to join our beta brotherhood again. Let us become brothers and gallop together." Sorry, my answer is still no. Owen still shook his head and refused. Thank you for your hospitality. It's getting late. I'll go back first. Bye. Can we join? After Owen left, Fatty Michael smiled enthusiastically. You guys? Wesley glanced at the three fat guys and wanted to refuse directly, but thinking that the popularity of the Beta Brotherhood has declined greatly, new brothers need to join in order to start the initiation ceremony and revive the reputation of the Beta Brotherhood. So he nodded and said, of course, but you must pass our test. Of course. Dormitory 666. Owen, why don't you join the fraternity? Fatty Michael asked with a look of pity. His intelligence is also level 4+, so he naturally knows that if Owen joins the fraternity with them, the probability of passing will be greatly increased. Then why do you want to join? Owen asked back, or why don't you choose a nerd fraternity that is more suitable for you? I prefer the Beta fraternity. Ken took the initiative to answer for the first time. They are wild, and the nerd fraternity is too rigid, just like us. Not very interesting. Yes, yes. Fatty Michael echoed. Obviously, the Beta fraternity is more fun. Although Ben Campbell didn't say anything, he was also eager to try. Perhaps it was because of Owen that they were able to witness such an awesome party. The hostility in Ben's eyes had disappeared. If Owen handed him a piece of bread now, he would definitely eat it while shouting, "It smells so good." Haha. Owen raised the corner of his mouth. More fun. That depends on whether you have the courage to play. After brainstorming, he had recalled what the Beta fraternity was. He did not hold out any hope for the membership test of Fatty Michael and the other two, because it really took enough courage to complete the densely packed tasks listed on the blackboard. If he makes a mistake, he could be given a warning within the school at the very least, or be forced to drop out at the worst. Worse still, he would be breaking the law. A son of a wealthy family cannot stay in the court. Owen would have to be a fool to take part in such a trial, just for the Italian canon. Chapter 67. Foreigners really know how to have fun. At night. Ring, ring, ring. The fire alarm in the dormitory building sounded. Owen stood up and pushed the door open. He saw students rubbing their eyes and walking out in groups of 3 or 4. There was no trace of fireworks. Instead, a plump black-haired girl leaned against the stairs, looking at this side with a smile. Owen's heart moved, and he immediately understood what happened. What's going on? Ben Campbell came out and asked in a daze. What's going on? I'm dreaming of eating a sandwich. Fatty Michael staggered over, opening his eyes that seemed to be awake, and muttered dissatisfiedly, "Hey, guys, go this way, it's closer." The plump black-haired girl saw that everyone was there, walked over, put one hand on the fat Michael and one hand on Ben, and led the confused 3 people to the back door. Seeing Owen standing there motionless, the girl turned around and threw a coquettish eye. Back door. Ben and the other 2 stood there, and a cold wind blew, and the 3 people wearing only shorts shivered immediately. No, where is this? Hey, guys, do you want to see something? At this moment, the black-haired plump girl behind them spoke in a tempting voice. The 3 of them were shocked and turned around to see the black-haired plump girl standing there with her hand on the zipper of her zipper shirt, pulling it down. Okay, The 3 of them swallowed their saliva. Hey, what is this? When the black-haired plump girl unzipped her zipper, the 3 of them were completely attracted by the eye-catching mark on her belly. They were all confused. Before they could say the word beta, they were shocked from behind in the neck and fainted. Beta house. After the effect of the electric shotgun wore off, the 3 of them were wearing hoods and were pulled to kneel on the ground. Then the hoods were lifted, revealing a smiling Wesley. The so-called Beta brothers were all around them, and they immediately understood what was happening. Next to the 3 of them, there were 5 people doing the same thing. Gentlemen, today is the first day of your life. You 8 are the best who have been selected to join the Beta Brotherhood. Long live Beta. Wesley began his speech. Most fraternities are selected to undergo mental and physical torture, just to make you surrender. But we are different from Beta. We have invented a complex scientific model to build team spirit and brotherhood. This is the selection task board. As soon as the voice fell, the Beta brothers next to him lifted the cloth, revealing a blackboard full of words. There are 50 tasks on the task board. You must complete them all before the end of the semester to become a member of Beta. I like to start with the 37th task. Can I speak? Ben stood up and said, huh. Wesley looked over unhappily. I give up. Ben said firmly. After looking at the 50 tasks on the task board, he finally understood why Owen rejected the enthusiastic invitation of the fraternity again and again. MMP, this is completely a joke on his future. He originally planned to join the Nerd Brotherhood because those people are the future elites, which means connections, but two good friends strongly requested to join the Beta Brotherhood. The picture of that awesome operation appeared in his mind, and he had some expectations in his heart, so he did not refute and followed them. But he did not expect that there were 50 tasks on the task board, and most of them were extremely risky. With his genius intelligence and calm mind, of course he rejected them at the first time. Okay, we don't need weaklings in the Beta Brotherhood, you can leave. Wesley looked at the fat man Michael and Ken, and said with a gloomy face, who else? Michael, Ken, Ben called. Me, I give up too. And me. Although Michael and Ken were reluctant in their hearts, they were good friends for many years, and were used to advancing and retreating with Ben. Moreover, they were also scared by the tasks on the task board. Not to mention 50 tasks. Even if there were only 37 tasks that were about to start, they did not have the courage to complete them. Just kidding. Going to a bar to find a dancer, asking her to sign on your buttocks, and taking a photo as proof. It seems like an impossible task. Dormitory 666. How was the Beta Brotherhood's initiation ceremony? Was it surprising? Owen was lying on the bed, watching the three people come back somewhat dejected, and joked. Hey, don't mention it. Fatty Michael muttered. We all abstained. Owen, you don't know how perverted the 50 tasks on the Beta Brotherhood's selection task board are. How perverted is it? Owen laughed. Got. Task 1, clap with the professor. Fatty Michael shouted excitedly. How is this possible? Ahem. Owen's throat felt a little uncomfortable, so he coughed and smiled. What else? Task 2, run naked on campus. Task 3, steal an ostrich. Task 4, secretly put the ostrich in the nerd room. Task 5, clap in the dean's office. Task 6, sing love songs to girls in 901. Task 7, drink a gallon of milk without peeing. Task 8, dance traditionally in the international house. Task 9, open an illegal casino. Task 10, drive to Mexico, indescribable. Task 11, take a photo album of seduction and temptation on campus. Task 12, clap in the library. Task 13, experience the golden rain. Task 14, can't afford to offend. Tasks 15 to 25, all kinds of disgusting, enjoy at the same time. Task 26, marry another selected companion, legally and in all senses. There were 50 difficult tasks, which were completely repeated by the three highly intelligent people. Owen listened and corresponded to the pictures in his memory. I have to say that foreigners really know how to play. On the other side of the ocean, there is a saying about the 4 irons of life. The Beta fraternity and other fraternities in American universities have issued test task boards for newcomers. To a certain extent, it is through the establishment of the 4 irons of life that a sense of belonging in a small circle is maintained. Think about it. When someone becomes rich in the future, such an old iron comes to the door and asks for help. Should we try our best to help within our ability? When some people have this idea, this circle will be stabilized, and it will continue to be inherited and expanded through the fraternity of the alma mater. Such connections are far more valuable than ordinary connections. For example, the exclusive lawyer of the Beta fraternity. When the Beta fraternity annoyed the Nerd fraternity, under the power of Franklin, the Beta brothers who were adults, but did not reach the legal drinking age of 21 were detained, and he came to clean their asses for free again. This exclusive lawyer was the former president of the Beta Brotherhood. Chapter 68, 18 Falls. School library. Owen sat opposite Bianca, the coffee fiend, reading a book. When he occasionally looked up, he would meet the eyes of Isabel, who was sitting next to Bianca. The two smiled at each other and lowered their heads to continue reading. Under Bianca's repeated warnings, Owen did not respond to Isabel's obvious signals. Well, at least in front of Bianca, he did not respond. Owen. Fatty Michael ran over breathlessly. Be quiet. This is a library. Bianca raised her head buried in a large medical book and scolded Michael. I'm sorry. Fatty Michael was good-tempered to pretty girls, or girls in general. Hearing this, he immediately apologized and put his hand to his mouth, making a gesture to keep quiet. What's wrong? Owen motioned him to sit down and took a pen to write on the paper. Nerd House has challenged Beta House to the Fraternity Olympics. It's about to start. Let's go and have a look. This is a conference that is permanently banned by the school. It's a gift from God to be able to encounter it once in a lifetime. Fatty Michael wrote quickly. Okay. Owen was also a little excited. This is the Fraternity Olympics, which includes sports, skills, endurance and Olympic spirit. Of course, the most important thing is that the events of the Fraternity Olympics are crazy and perverted enough that they were later permanently banned by the University of Chicago. Everyone knows that the more banned something is, the more exciting it is to most people. Just like the law is the first Bible in the business world, the permanently banned Fraternity Olympics is also the same. The events in it are very entertaining. Let's go to. Just as Owen stood up and prepared to leave with Fatty Michael, Isabel suddenly spoke up. It was obvious that she had secretly seen the conversation between Owen and the others and became interested in the legendary Fraternity Olympics. What? Bianca was confused and didn't understand the situation. Let's go. How can we stay in the library all day? Let's go with them to relax. Isabel pulled Bianca and walked out. Owen, is it okay? Owen opened his mouth and wanted to say that this occasion was not suitable for you, but seeing that Isabel was just asking casually and had no intention of asking for his opinion, he shrugged and said, of course it's okay, but don't make a fuss later. The fraternity guys are playing too crazy. I'm afraid that your souls will be refreshed. Bianca heard this and became very competitive. She said indignantly, Owen, you actually underestimated me. Yes. Isabel echoed, we are going to be doctors in the future. We have to experience eating in a dissection room full of formalin and facing a cadaver teacher. What's the big deal about a mere fraternity Olympics? Haha. Owen laughed and didn't explain. Nerd House. The fraternity's venue was built with a lot of money. There was a large outdoor swimming pool behind the villa. When Owen and his 4 friends arrived, they saw that both sides of the pool were already full of people. Look. The people on the left wearing blue t-shirts are members of the Nerd Brotherhood. Fatty Michael couldn't help but introduce. The people on the right wearing red t-shirts are members of the Beta Brotherhood. Is the one on the top the referee? Isabel looked at the second floor of the villa curiously. On the left and right stood a pair of Greek warriors in golden armor and a maid in Greek costume. In the middle stood an old man in classical Greek costume, wearing a red coat diagonally, like a cardinal. He is a former member of the Beta Brotherhood and the champion captain of the last Brotherhood Olympics. According to tradition, he will be responsible for hosting this Olympics. Owen explained with a smile. It's quite interesting. Bianca looked around and was moved by the lively atmosphere around her. She couldn't help but say, now, I declare that the Brotherhood Olympics has officially begun. The referee waved his hand and said, the first competitive event, Release Venus. Release Venus? Isabel said to herself, it's a nice name. Before she finished speaking, the crowd dispersed, revealing the 2 rows of girls in white t-shirts in the middle. There were equal numbers of girls, 7 in each row. When the referee was explaining the meaning of Release Venus, 14 girls had completed their preparations. At this time, Isabel finally understood the meaning of it and couldn't help feeling a chill. What a great hand speed. Fatty Michael looked at the 2 men fighting with envy, swinging their hands like lightning, and couldn't help but exclaimed. He often boasted that he had the golden right hand, and when he saw this kind of scene that only appeared in dreams to test hand speed, how could he not think, a real man should be like this, I can replace him. But as soon as this thought arose, he was hit by the speed of the 2 men fighting, one by one, without stopping. Fatty Michael couldn't help but sighed, I can't compare to them. Haha. Don't underestimate yourself, you just don't have experience. This kind of thing, it's meaningless to rely on your own exploration. Owen smiled reservedly and looked down at him, and you haven't seen the real hand of God. Their speed is more than 10 times slower than the hand of God. His Fatty Michael took a breath and said in disbelief, 10 times? How is this possible? Unless they have superpowers, how can they be so fast? Of course not. Owen analyzed rationally. You are also a genius in the department of mathematics. They are now releasing it while walking, and the speed is about 0.5 m/s. How fast is a person running? The average person runs at a speed of 10 kilometers, and people who run regularly can reach 20 to 30 kilometers. That's 5.6 m/s to 8.3 m/s. So, a person who runs regularly is indeed more than 10 times faster than them. Fatty Michael immediately gave the answer. Oh, that's not right. How can you calculate it like this? This is just the speed of running. To release Venus, you must slow down, which will inevitably consume a lot of time. Indeed. Owen smiled mysteriously. Unless this god's hand has reached the legendary realm of 18 falls of a touch, he doesn't need to slow down at all. During the running process, the god's hand has been stretched out. Just a light touch can release Venus in an instant. Fatty Michael was already stunned. There is such a magical operation? Disgusting. Bianca understood the meaning of Owen's words and couldn't help rolling her eyes and said, your god's hand was created by all the girls in North Shore High School. Half right. Owen joked. It was created by all the beautiful girls in North Shore High School. Well, women. I'm an extreme believer in appearance. I don't care about anything, but aesthetics is my insistence. In fact, there is nothing mysterious, it's just a matter of practice. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 69 Nerd House. Wow. Yes. We won. When Owen, the oil seller, was introducing his successful experience, the Beta Brotherhood was already screaming and laughing. Oh, how could they lose? Didn't the president say that he had been dating underwear models in Milan for a whole season? It's not the president's fault. Although the underwear models in Milan have good figures, they are not fierce. The one the president met just now was too fierce. How can such people be easily defeated? TSK. You talk as if you are very experienced. The Nerd Brotherhood was annoyed. The second item is the Battle of the Gods of War. The host referee announced. This item has no connotation. It is just a large wooden board suspended in the swimming pool. Each side sends a person to fight each other on it with a stick. The one who falls into the water first loses. The Nerd Brotherhood used Franklin's Law and hired top swordsmen at a high price to crush the Beta Brotherhood. The third item is the Feast of Demeter. This item is still not very interesting. It is to release a pig covered in oil, and then both sides send people to catch it. The first party to catch it wins. The Nerd Brotherhood still uses the same routine. They found an extreme sports enthusiast who is good at poker, and defeated the Beta Brotherhood again, temporarily leading by 2-1. The fourth item is Brother Roulette. The host referee stood in front of a table, and the presidents of the two fraternities sat on both sides. A green plastic gun was placed in the middle of the table. I have to remind both of you that Brother Roulette is a game that requires a lot of courage. People with weak hearts should never play it. What kind of bullet is that? Many people have played the roulette game. Even if they haven't played it, they have seen it in the movie. Isabel is curious about what bullet this green plastic gun uses. This is the key to the game. Dragon Horse Spirit. Owen said with a suppressed laugh. Bianca heard Owen's words and then saw that Wesley, the president of the Beta Brotherhood, had already stuffed the muzzle of the gun into his mouth. Suddenly, she felt a chill and retched. How disgusting. Isabel's face was not looking good either, but she stared at Owen with a cold look. Obviously she was trapped in some unpleasant memories. Ugh. Wesley was lucky to escape, but the president of the nerd house was not so lucky. When the bullet exploded in his mouth, he vomited there. Bianca and some other onlookers were also moved to do the same action. Even Owen didn't dare to look directly at him. He looked away and mouthed to Isabel, who looked bad but didn't react, and said silently, "You're welcome." Isabel immediately rolled her eyes, stretched out her hands, and gestured with her middle finger. After a commotion, the fifth event of the Fraternity Olympics began. Walking with wife. It was very simple. That is, the boy hugged the girl hanging upside down on him, crossed various obstacles, and the one who reached the finish line first won. The Nerd Brotherhood once again showed the magic of Franklin, inviting a female gymnast who was more manly than a man. Her muscles were so strong that they were terrifying. She hugged a skinny boy and easily won the victory. 6th item, Peloponnesian War. The referee announced, "This time, the Beta Brotherhood will definitely win." Fatty Michael murmured, "Let's retreat." Owen pulled Bianca with one hand and Isabel with the other, and retreated away from the center of the battle. "What's wrong?" Isabel asked puzzledly. "You'll know later." Owen smiled mysteriously. "I believe you will thank me." In the center of the battlefield, each side sent 6 people to drink a bucket of beer. Whoever finished drinking first would win, but the disgusting thing is that vomiting does not count as losing. Ugh. So when the two sides stood in a row facing each other and sprayed each other, Bianca was implicated again. She felt uncomfortable in her throat again and retched there. Shit. Isabel couldn't help but step back. The center of the battlefield was completely flooded with disgusting vomit. Each of the 12 people on the field was filthy and smelled terrible, but under the leadership of their respective presidents, they were still drinking beer and vomiting as they drank. This is the fraternity. Owen grinned and thought to himself, even if I have a lot of connections, I don't care. With the American TV system, I just need to obtain existence points step by step. Sooner or later, I can do anything. Why do I have to do this to humiliate myself? Of course, this kind of exaggerated and perverted behavior is not the norm for all fraternities, but in order to promote brotherhood and cultivate team spirit, similar things happen in every fraternity to a certain extent. This is also the reason why Owen resolutely refuses to join any fraternity. In the end, the Nerd House, which is ranked by GPA, is not as good as the Beta House, which is ranked by alcohol concentration. The two sides tied 3-3 and entered the final elimination round. The 7th and last item, Eros Rising. The host referee carefully explained, "The rules are very simple. Whoever first prints the word Sage on his middle name will win, and will also win the championship of this fraternity Olympics." Haha. You are doomed to lose. I'm known as the Little Prince of Tuna. Beta President Wesley laughed. Humph. The president of the Nerd House snorted coldly. "The license of Beta House and its nearly 100 years of heritage will be destroyed in your hands. Wesley, you will become the biggest shame of the Beta Brotherhood. In America, every club has a license. Once the license is taken away, the club will no longer exist. This is what the two sides are betting on. Hey, let's wait and see." Wesley smiled mysteriously. The Little Prince of Tuna was just joking. He has his own secret weapon. The two sat down by the pool, and Owen and others watched on the other side. Both sides sent a hot beauty to the other side and danced. 3.141592653589793238462. The president of the Nerd House had to read out pile loudly to divert attention. No big deal. Wesley still had the leisure to appreciate and comment at the same time. He was the little prince of bars and nightclubs, and he was used to this kind of scene. After the first round, both sides sent out hotter girls to compete again, but there was still no progress. The president of the Nerd House smiled proudly and said, "It's time to end the game, bring her in." As soon as he finished speaking, a tall and cool beauty walked over with a catwalk. She is the chief dancer of Emerald City. Enjoy it. His professionals are different after all. Wesley couldn't hold it anymore and shouted, "I'm in big trouble. Let's get our secret weapon on the court. Red alert. Red alert." Puff. Holy shit. What the FK? When a girl dressed in a sheep costume came out with a bleating sound, the whole audience was stunned. P.S. Thanks to the Smog Demon King for the reward. Chapter 70. 21 points. University of Chicago. Me when the president of the Nerd House saw the girl in sheep costume bleating in front of him, his thoughts suddenly returned to the shameful night of the dark and windy night, and then he completely collapsed. He lost. The girl in sheep costume was also an old driver, and she immediately realized that the president of the Nerd House had been promoted to a sage. The champion has been chosen, and it is Beta House. The host referee announced with relief. Oh, yeah. Everyone in Beta House fell into madness. What happened? Bianca was completely confused. She really couldn't understand the situation just now. It's disgusting. Isabel was very knowledgeable and would also face the photo shoot of the prospective doctor album. Therefore, she understood the truth at a glance and looked at the president of the nerd house with a face full of disgust. Haha. Owen laughed beside him without explaining, thinking, you think you understand, so you hate it, but you don't know that you are still too naive. Reality is often more exciting than movies. At least it doesn't divide people into levels. While the noise was very noisy here, a special class was being held in the organic chemistry room in the teaching building. Professor, why don't you choose Owen Lee? A tall white boy sat on a chair and raised his hand to ask Professor Makirosa, who was standing in front of the blackboard. Owen Lee and Ben Campbell have similar intelligence, but relatively speaking, Owen is much calmer than Ben, so he is more suitable for us, right? Fisher is right. After a semester of observation, Owen is calmer, while Ben is almost drunk in the beta room filled with alcohol. If I have to choose a candidate, I agree to choose Owen Lee. Jill Taylor, the beauty of the mathematics department, raised her hand. Okay, Kiana, what do you think? Professor Makirosa smiled without comment and looked at the remaining two Asian students, a boy and a girl. Ben Campbell. Owen Lee. The boy okay chose Ben, while the girl Kiana chose Kiana. Reason? Professor Makirosa asked. Owen is calmer. Kiana said first, but there was a glimmer of carnivore in her eyes. Okay shrugged and said, who hasn't been young? When we first entered college, we must have been excited when we received the invitation from the beta fraternity. But Ben was able to calmly and decisively refuse such a great temptation. From this point of view, Ben is better than Owen Lee. Perhaps Owen Lee can only resist temptation from a distance and dare not get close at all? This is just a guess. Kiana retorted. In fact, judging from Owen Lee's past experience, he was able to choose to withdraw on the eve of the Eternal Spear Choir's popularity. This kind of determination surpasses all of us, including Professor Rosa. I mean, no disrespect, Professor. It doesn't matter. Professor Makirosa waved his hand and smiled. Kiana, you are right. In this regard, Owen has indeed surpassed all of us, but on the other hand, this is also the most important reason why we can't choose him. Yes. Okay got the support of Professor Rosa and said with a jolt, friends, please note that we are here to make money, and the money we see is so insignificant compared to the money that the Eternal Spear will make after becoming famous. Do you think we can convince each other with money? Absolutely correct. Professor Rosa pointed at okay and agreed. The probability of a successful invitation is too low. He also knows a tenured professor at the school. If we fail, we don't have enough ability to keep him secret. Therefore, I decided that our last choice is Ben Campbell. Okay, Professor, you convinced me. What a pity. I think if Owen joins, maybe we will be stronger. Returns are always proportional to risks. Just like when we count cards, we must consider risks and returns comprehensively and find a balance point to make money. Once we have the intention of gambling, we lose. After the four nodded in agreement, Professor Rosa, the founder of the Blackjack Group, made the final statement. Fisher. Professor, you are responsible for inviting Ben Campbell. Okay. A week later, night fell. Ben Campbell was reading a book alone in the empty library. Fisher came over, stood in front of Ben, shrugged and said, genius boy, follow me. What? Follow me? Is this another trick used by some club to recruit new members? Ben sat there motionless. Having experienced the electric shock once, he didn't want to experience it again. Moreover, after experiencing the incident with the beta fraternity, he was very glad that he decisively gave up. Because although the noisy fraternity Olympics ended with the victory of the beta house, both parties involved in the Olympics were expelled from the University of Chicago. That's right, all of them were expelled. A total of 46 students from both sides were expelled from the University of Chicago. The permanent ban of the fraternity Olympics is not a joke. From this perspective, all members of the beta fraternity are the real losers. Because they don't have the status of top students from the University of Chicago, most of them will not even be able to mix with the middle class in the future. Most of them will find a job to make a living like those members of the high school football team, and then drink cheap alcohol in a small and messy room, watching TV and cursing. Finally, in the monotonous and numb life day after day, he became an alcoholic. He beat his wife and children on rainy days, which made the children have an unhappy childhood, and then provided various materials for the formation of villains in Hollywood movies. The members of the nerd fraternity are different. Most of them have made money on their own, and it is not a small amount of money. The identity of alumni of the University of Chicago is just a further help for them, but it is not an indispensable condition. Fisher's mouth twitched, and the action of pretending to put his hands in his pockets was interrupted. He stretched out his hand and gestured. "Follow me. Professor Osa is looking for you." "Professor Osa?" Ben was slightly stunned, then stood up, put away the book, and followed Fisher with a backpack slung over his shoulder, leaving the library. "Organic chemistry laboratory. Oh, our distinguished guest is here." In front of the blackboard, Professor Osa was studying the mathematical model of blackjack, trying to find a more efficient algorithm. When he heard the door open, he turned around and smiled. "Ben, how are you doing recently?" "Fine." Ben asked cautiously. "Professor Osa, is there something wrong with my thesis?" "Of course not." Professor Osa shook his head and smiled. "Kiana, Fisher, Zaya, okay. Jill." The four students introduced themselves. Ben's eyes swept over them one by one, and fell on Jill Taylor for a long time, until he heard Professor Osa's voice in his ear, and then he came back to his senses. "Ben, have you ever played blackjack?" Chapter 71 Money is a Man's Courage. Organic Chemistry Lab. "No." Ben was stunned for a moment, then shook his head. "Really? It's actually very simple." Professor Osa gestured for Ben to go over. Jill and the others were sitting at a gambling table. The professor drew poker cards from the card machine while introducing. "You and the dealer are opponents. He will deal you 2 cards. A face card greater than 10 counts as 10 points. You can ask for cards, stop cards, and raise bets. The person closest to 21 wins, and the one who exceeds 21 loses. This is the most popular card game in the world." Fish laughed. "It's actually a game that tests memory." Jill Taylor analyzed rationally. "The cards that have been dealt are the past, and the cards that have not yet been dealt are the future. And the best thing." Professor Osa leaned back in his chair and smiled shrewdly. "It can be defeated. You should know this very well." "Are you talking about counting cards?" Ben suddenly realized. This is the same as the variables considered by the host in math class, except that the 21-point game uses 4 decks of cards. Excluding the big and small jokers, there are a total of 208 cards, and they are constantly changing. The complexity and difficulty are far beyond the imagination of ordinary people. But in theory, people with super memory and super mental arithmetic ability may be able to count cards successfully. They only need to quickly calculate the winning rate of the current game according to the current situation, and place a heavy bet when the winning rate is very high, and there is a great chance of winning. For example, Sheldon, who has high definition image memory, does not need to look at Leonard and others when they play card games. He can accurately analyze what cards each family has in their hands just by listening. In this case, he is naturally invincible. Of course, those who get stuck in their teeth when drinking water and have a bloody back may still encounter those small and medium probability events again and again, even if they calculate the probability of winning to be 99%. And such people must have been kicked out of the group long ago. So when this approach is implemented for a whole game or a period of time, overall victory is almost inevitable, which is what Professor Osa calls being defeated. "No, I'm talking about getting very rich." Professor Osa tempted. "You only need to fly to Las Vegas on weekends and holidays, and you can make money while on vacation. This is a great hobby, isn't it? All of you count cards?" Ben was shocked. "We are a team," Jill explained. "When we work together as a team, our winning rate will increase many times." Ben asked calmly, "Then why did you find me?" "One of us graduated and went to Google," Professor Osa said proudly. Ben was skeptical. If you can really make a lot of money like this, why would he go to Google? "I'm talking about Google," Professor Osa emphasized. "In this era, Google is already the world's largest internet giant. Those who enter Google as outstanding graduates of the University of Chicago have a bright future. Sorry, I still can't do it." Ben refused calmly. Why? With your intelligence, there is no problem with university courses, and you want to transfer to a medical school for further study, but it will cost a lot of money. Professor Osa reminded. How do you know? Ben was shocked. I'm very interested in my students. Professor Osa said meaningfully. Ben's heart trembled, and he felt the danger of this matter more and more. He shook his head firmly and said, sorry. As he spoke, he walked out. Ben. What? I hope you can keep this conversation confidential. Of course. Ben was about to nod in agreement, but was interrupted by Professor Osa. No, I must remind you that you are one of my favorite students. If I lose you, I will be very sad. Do you understand what I mean? In American colleges and universities, it is easy for a university professor to deal with a student. All he needs to do is deliberately make things difficult for him and lower his grades, which may cause an excellent student to lose the opportunity to go further. Of course, the premise is that he has no background and connections. Otherwise, it would be difficult to deal with someone like Owen, who is very familiar with Katie's mother, a tenured professor at the University of Chicago. This is also the reason why Professor Osa didn't even see Owen. Gordon said. The door was closed, and Ben, who was standing outside the door, had a bitter smile on his face. He was threatened by his professor, but this threat was real. He secretly decided not to mention it even in front of his good friend Michael and others. Unfortunately, he didn't know that Professor Osa and others would not give up so easily. Ben's burning gaze towards Jill Taylor was so obvious that the honey trap was naturally used. Ben resisted with a reserved attitude, but his willpower was not as strong as he thought. On the way home on the subway, while pushing his bicycle, he looked around and saw that everyone he saw was a loser. He suddenly felt that counting cards was no big deal. As long as he could earn enough $300,000 to go to medical school, he would stop immediately. Besides, he might be able to create some sparks with Jill Taylor. Money and beauty have always been the two things that most impress men, and Ben seemed to have them at his fingertips. How could he hold on? He turned back to the campus and found Professor Osa and the others. With his strong memory and mental arithmetic, he successfully integrated into the group. 1 month later. Dormitory 666. Back. Irving looked at Ben Campbell, whose spirit had changed drastically, and understood what he had seen. He joked, how was your weekend? Michael and the others said they couldn't find you. Yeah. Ben stood there, looking at Irving with an aloof attitude, thinking of what Zio and the others had told him after the team members got to know each other, and thinking about his exciting trip to Las Vegas this month. For Irving, who didn't even know he had lost, his eyes were full of superiority. I had to go out for something, and I forgot to bring my phone. After Irving went out, Ben secretly put the bundles of cash in his backpack into the vent on the roof, covered the vent, and lay on his bed. Looking at the vent on the roof, Ben's mouth curled up, and he closed his eyes and fell asleep. In Las Vegas, day and night are reversed, and the spirit is excited. After a weekend, lack of sleep is inevitable. At night, in a bar next to the University of Chicago, the four of them were at a party. While Fatty Michael and Ken were still arguing about whether to go up, Ben caught a glimpse of Jill Taylor. Driven by a combination of hormones and a pretentious impulse, he walked directly to Jill Taylor and boldly invited her. What the F***ck? Why is Ben so bold all of a sudden? He even dared to approach Jill Taylor. Money is a man's courage. Owen squinted his eyes at Ben, who was spending money recklessly and showed no trace of shyness at all. He couldn't help but sigh. Thinking of an embarrassing incident that happened last weekend, he drank the beer in the glass and put it down heavily. He had already made a decision in his heart. Chapter 72. A confused account. Last weekend, Mary and Tiffany, two old friends, came to visit together. The dormitory was too simple. Even if Ben Campbell was willing, Owen would not choose to entertain the two old friends here. Besides, because of the powerful skill 1, Owen could be said to rarely stay in the dormitory. Chicago Hampton Hotel. Mr. Lee, welcome again. The receptionist looked up and saw that it was an old acquaintance. She immediately smiled sweetly and greeted warmly. She glanced at Mary and Tiffany on Owen's left and right and praised in her heart, there are really new people every day. Emily, is room 999 vacant? Owen was already very familiar with the receptionist, and he didn't mean to be polite. Of course. The receptionist didn't even need to check, and directly replied, room 999 has always been vacant for you. You are a VIP customer of our hotel. In fact, this room was almost booked by Owen. Let's open it for 2 days. I'm going to go upstairs to talk about homework with the 2 teachers first, and the fee will be settled later. Is that okay? Owen took the key and asked as usual. Of course, no problem. The receptionist smiled and said, I wish you all a pleasant stay. After Mary and Tiffany half pushed Owen and quickly entered the elevator, the receptionist rolled her eyes and muttered, Bah, talking about homework? What homework is so urgent that you have to come to the hotel to discuss it? 2 nights and 2 days later. Emily, check out. The receptionist looked up and was startled. She stood up and asked with concern, Mr. Lee, are you okay? It's okay. Owen's face was pale. He put his hand on his waist and patted it gently. Hearing this, he waved his hand and said, my former dance teacher recently choreographed a new dance. It's very difficult. I've been busy with my homework recently, and the dance has been very conventional without much innovation. I was a little uncomfortable for a while. But I'm like this. The higher the difficulty, the more I like the challenge. Therefore, I have been learning and practicing these 2 days. I have overworked myself. I just need to take a day off. So that's the case. The receptionist's mouth twitched. She took Owen's card and forced a smile, saying, Mr. Lee, you are really a persistent and studious art lover. Huh? What's wrong? Owen still patted his back gently and asked without raising his head. Mr. Lee, there is a problem with your credit card. The receptionist returned to her professional smile. I can't pay the room fee. Is there a problem? Owen was stunned and asked in surprise, what's the problem? There are many reasons. The receptionist smiled. Maybe your credit card is frozen, or maybe the bank system is broken, or your credit card has reached the limit. Owen is so smart. These 3 reasons clearly show that the last one is the real reason. It's maximum doubt. Owen frowned. His genius level 5 intelligence was running at high speed, and he had the double sage halo blessing. He calculated the economic account and understood everything almost instantly. When he was in college, Owen's income came from the following 5 aspects. 1. Mathematical Olympiad Regional Finals. $1,000 asterisk 2 equals $2,000 2. Mathematical Olympiad National Runner-Up. $3,000 3. Choir National Championship. $10,000 4. When he quit the Eternal Spear, he signed a confidentiality agreement and the other party gave him a hush money. $10,000 5. Worked part-time as a weeder at Wisteria Lane. Mrs. Salas, a former Milan model who was not short of money, gave him a top salary of $1,000 because of his excellent weeding skills. The total income was $26,000, which was indeed a lot of money. In addition, Irving received a full scholarship, and the Hampton Inn was not a very luxurious hotel. The cost of an ordinary room was only about $100. However, in more than 3 months, it would not cost that much. But Irving did spend a lot. 1. Road trip, about $600. 2. Living expenses and miscellaneous expenses for 1 semester in college. $3,000. 3. The cost of pursuing art at the Hampton Inn. 90 asterisk 100 plus 90 asterisk 10 plus 90 asterisk 50 slash 3 plus 90 asterisk 200 slash 5 plus 1000 asterisk 3 equals 18,000 US dollars. Basic room fee plus tips plus extra item loss fee for every 3 days plus compensation for damaging the room. 4. Camping, $2,000. 5. Car wash fee. 90 asterisk 20 slash 9 equals 200 USD. 6. Donation. $5,000. The total expenditure was $28,800, which was nearly $2,800 overspending. No wonder the credit card was maximum doubt. I was so stupid. I shouldn't have believed the Russian twin sisters. Owen grinned and whispered softly. Sister Adele said that it was freezing rain in Antarctica and polar bears had no home. They were so pitiful. Sister Erina said that it was freezing rain in Antarctica and pandas and giraffes were so pitiful. Could it be that my genius brain of level 5 was filled with blood and stupidity? I didn't even see through such a lie. The most important thing is that the reason for donating love in the end was not this, but pity and admiration for the experiences of the two sisters. According to the two sisters, their hometown was too cold and their family was poor. They didn't have many clothes to wear. They had always been wearing very thin clothes and often shivered with cold. Therefore, they were tired of everything in their hometown and came to America with great difficulty. They wanted to sell potted plants together without relying on others, but they were not doing it for themselves, but for charity. They were willing to give everything and use the donations from caring people to help more people like them. This noble sentiment, even a heartless person like Owen looked at their thin and lacking clothes that needed to be deliberately searched for to see and was excited for a while. He could not distinguish the most basic logical errors and stupidly stuffed $5,000 into the sister's love donation box. When the excitement passed, Owen sagely, who woke up, regretted so much that his thighs were swollen. It was not that he cared about the money, but he was ashamed of being charged an IQ tax. Millimeters. Even if you yell daddy 100 times in unison, I won't be fooled again. Owen made a decision in his heart. Suddenly, he smelled a special smell in his nose, which made him take a deep breath. Hey, what's that smell? It smells so good. Mr. Lee. The receptionist saw Owen in a daze and couldn't help but remind him. Owen came back to his senses and smiled awkwardly. Wait a minute. Okay. The receptionist nodded politely. Do you need me to apply for a waiver for you? For a VIP customer like Owen who regards Hampton as his home, it is normal to waive 1 or 2 bills. Thank you. Owen hurriedly thanked him. What happened just now? Outside the hotel, Mary asked with concern. What took you so long? Nothing. Owen smiled awkwardly. He didn't want to continue this topic, but when he thought of his maximum out credit card, he had to say shamelessly, Teacher Major, can you lend me $5,000 first? I will pay you back as soon as possible. Of course. Mary was stunned for a moment, then agreed without hesitation. She did not have the embarrassment of talking about money that would hurt feelings like most people. A sweet smile appeared on her rosy face. Chapter 73 Good luck, chicken dinner. Las Vegas. Located on the edge of the desert in Nevada, it was originally a barren land. However, because of the passage of the bill that legalized gambling, it transformed from an inconspicuous rundown village into a huge international city in less than 10 years. As one of the 4 largest gambling cities in the world, it is a world-famous resort city for tourism, shopping and vacation centered on the gambling industry. It has the reputation of the entertainment capital of the world and the marriage capital. Among the more than 30 million tourists who come to Las Vegas every year, most of them come to shop and enjoy food, and only a few come to gamble. If you are poor and have only a few dollars left, you may turn your life around in Las Vegas. If you have too much money to spend, you may feel the coolness of a tramp in Las Vegas. Las Vegas is like this. One side is hell, and the other side is heaven. And Irving, who was embarrassed by the financial difficulties, chose to fly here across 2,000 kilometers, like many poor people, to turn his life around. But unlike others who rely on luck, Irving relies on his girlfriend, mathematics, and science. Friday, late night, apartment hotel. Welcome. Compared to the welcome that is always available at star-rated hotels, apartment hotels are much simpler, similar to the Hampton, in where Irving is used to staying, and because of the special nature of Las Vegas, the accommodation fee is generally much cheaper than other places. When the receptionist saw Irving push the door and enter, she stood up politely and greeted with a smile. Open me a standard room. Irving, who had been on a flight for more than 4 hours, was still full of energy, but he chose to settle down first and then go to various casinos. Okay, sir. It was almost early in the morning, and the receptionist still performed in a standard and procedural manner, without any negative emotions such as irritability and impatience, because Las Vegas is a real city that never sleeps. Putting down his luggage and taking a short rest, Irving walked out of the hotel and walked on Las Vegas Boulevard, which is home to many hotel-style casinos. Because casinos are a gold rush, Tycoons from all over the United States have invested in Las Vegas to build casinos, and even wealthy people from island countries, Arab princes, and famous actors have come to invest. Of course, the other side of the ocean will not be absent. As of now, there are more than 200 casinos of all sizes in Las Vegas. The other side of the city. Owen looked at the beautiful font, his eyes lit up, and he stepped in. Ding ding dong dong. I won. A cry of surprise accompanied by the sound of the slot machine spitting out coins attracted the attention of many people. A middle-aged Asian man sat on the slot machine, waving his hands, looking extremely excited. Gambler. Owen looked at him with pity and shook his head. This kind of gambling tool that requires a computer program has long been controlled to the best winning state, allowing people to win a little from time to time, ding dong sound, whetting their appetite, and more often they lose a lot quietly. Other similar gambling methods include flying roulette, baccarat, dice rolling, etc. Owen simply glanced at it and walked away with little interest. He walked to the blackjack table and watched it for a while. He had a bottom line in his heart and went to the hotel's chip exchange office to exchange small chips worth $1,000. After borrowing $5,000 from Mary, Owen first paid off $2,800 of credit card debts related to credit problems, then spent $800 on round-trip airfare from Chicago to Las Vegas, and $50 a night at an apartment hotel. After exchanging $1,000, Owen only had more than $200 left for emergencies. Good luck, chicken tonight. A classic shout of opening cards attracted Owen's attention. Hey. Owen looked in the direction of the voice and saw a middle-aged Asian woman sitting behind the gambling table dealing cards. Opposite her sat a young and beautiful Asian woman, and the two were gambling skillfully. The one who just shouted was not the middle-aged woman who was the dealer, but the Asian woman who was a gambler. The two chatted while gambling. Why don't you go back to sleep after winning the money? The middle-aged dealer reminded. You can be willful if you have money. The young woman slapped a stack of chips in her hand on the table and threw a chip worth $100 to the position of a raise. Today's bet is quite generous. The middle-aged dealer looked at the chips in the young woman's hand and said with a smile. Tip $10,000. The young woman's eyes sparkled, and it was obvious that she was very satisfied with the tip tonight. There is no such thing as money that is not hot. Be more careful. The middle-aged dealer couldn't help but remind him. Bang. The young woman put another chip in the raise position and said nonchalantly, I know it's a given. He does want to, but am I the kind of person who has never seen big money? Humph. Thinking back to the past. Forget it. Let's not talk about the past. Sisterling, don't worry, he won't be able to touch a single hair of mine. Jaya Jaya. Sisterling, the middle-aged dealer, took the chips lost by the young woman and continued to persuade her. Now it's different from before. Since you chose to leave Leo Tang, you should understand the principle of self-reliance. Working as a public relations in a casino is a job for the young. Your daughter is a few years old. How many years do you want to earn a living? Don't worry about me. Leo Tang has such a big family business, and she is the only one. No matter what, she will not be treated unfairly. The young woman when Jayajia's eyes darkened, but she still said stubbornly, I have seen through it. Drink today and worry tomorrow. Why bother so much? I don't want to be Wen Jayajia anymore, just the spoiled master of the other side of the city. Why are you so depressed? Sisterling asked with concern. I remember that you chose to leave Leo Tang because of the driver named Frank. You two were pretty good, right? What happened later? When Jayajia was immediately excited when she heard Frank's name. Don't mention this liar to me. Sisterling was surprised. No way. He doesn't look like that kind of person. We were all deceived by him. When Jayajia gritted her teeth and said, Leo Lera is very bad. I gave up we were in the identity of Mrs. Tang, who I finally got promoted to, for him. When I met him again on the top of the Empire State Building, I thought I had met true love, but I didn't expect that I was not even Zio Si or Zio Wu. How could this be? Sisterling was stunned, because she had met Frank, a mature, steady, elegant, generous, and very charismatic person. How could he be related to Leo Lerao and a liar? Uncle's love is not yours, and his money is even less yours. At this time, there was another person in front of the gambling table, and it was Owen. When Jia glanced at Owen with her bright eyes, and after a quick glance, she had already classified Owen as a low-class tourist, and was too lazy to pay attention to him. However, Sisterling stopped talking after seeing Owen sit down and start betting, smiled at Owen, and then shouted and started dealing cards. Good luck, let's have chicken tonight. Chapter 74. What's there to talk about? Love. Las Vegas. The other shore. Wow. Win again. Too great. A blackjack table not far away was surrounded by people, and screams could be heard from time to time. What's going on? When Jia looked over, I started with $1,000. Sisterling introduced. I won almost $20,000. Cheater? When Jia whispered. Impossible. Sisterling glanced at Owen, shook her head affirmatively, and thought, if you dare to cheat on the other shore, you are not afraid of making money but not living. Go and play two hands. When Jia stood up, picked up the chips, and walked over there. In the casino, betting on white is not considered as winning, but betting on red is a consensus of everyone. After all, sometimes when a person's luck comes up, it is really like killing gods and Buddhas. As long as smart people see the opportunity and follow this good luck, they will definitely win money. Of course, the premise is that they don't win too much and know when to withdraw. Otherwise, no matter how great the good luck is, it will definitely be a disaster rather than a blessing. Sir, don't you want to play a few rounds? Sisterling asked in surprise, looking at Owen who was motionless. I'm lucky tonight too. After Owen raised the bet, he gestured for a card and smiled. Two people with good luck are not suitable to sit at the same gambling table. If their luck collides, it will be bad. That's right. Sisterling smiled in agreement and said no more. She quietly dealt the cards, collected the cards, and paid the chips. When the noise over there ended, the chips in Owen's hand had changed from $1,000 to $5,000. No more playing. Owen put away the chips, smiled at Sisterling who was a little dazed, and then stood up and left. What a smart man. Sisterling looked at Owen's back and murmured, it's such a simple principle to quit when you are ahead. In the casino, how many people can soberly do it? Outside the other side of the city. After exchanging the chips, Owen walked out and bumped into a pair of handsome men and beautiful women walking on the street. They were Jia and her old classmate who had just met, a math genius who was recommended to a prestigious school. Seeing that they were in love, the ambiguous atmosphere made Owen feel sick. He couldn't help but smile at Jia and then walked directly to another casino. The principle he believed in was, when love can be done, what else is there to talk about? Friends? The handsome old classmate couldn't help asking, and his words couldn't help but have a sour taste. Pride and confidence were so fragile in front of Jia, a big-eyed beauty whose appearance function rose to the maximum. No. When Jia looked at Owen with disgust, she was having a good time flirting with her old classmate, but Owen's smile ruined the atmosphere. You know, although she was not a good student at first, she still admired this genius student who was directly admitted to a prestigious school, especially because he had impeccable looks. It can be said that she, like many girls in the same school, had a secret crush on him. Now, meeting again in a foreign land has raised one of the four great joys of life, meeting an old friend in a foreign land, to more than one level. She really wants good things to come in pairs. A self-righteous tourist. When Jia attracted her gaze and caught a glimpse of the unhappiness in her lover's eyes, her years of being a mistress made her act immediately and quickly slandered Owen. It's okay that he has no money, but he wants to pretend to be rich. He thinks that he can succeed in chatting up girls with one or two words he heard from nowhere. I don't know what's wrong with this world. Haha. The handsome old classmate's face froze, and he smiled uncomfortably. He seemed to have no money either. He relied on his talent to attract the hearts of girls, and of course his appearance. The two of them stood outside in the cold wind for half the night. Fortunately, they were both passionate, otherwise they really couldn't bear it. After making an appointment to meet again tomorrow, they went their separate ways. Sisterling's home. Wow, now I'm going to have a double harvest in career and love. When Jia lay on the bed, hugging the pillow, rolling around there, laughing. What's going on? Sister Ling was woken up and walked over with her clothes on. What are you doing crazy in the middle of the night? Sister Ling. When Jiajia jumped up, hugged Sister Ling and laughed. Do you know Mark Owen? The Chinese gambling saint? Sister Ling was stunned. Yes, yes. When Jiajia nodded repeatedly and said, it's him. You can't imagine who won nearly $20,000 there tonight. No matter who it is, it can't be Mark Owen. Sister Ling said calmly, because he and his team are on the blacklist of all casinos in Las Vegas and are banned from entering. Is there such a thing? When Jiajia seemed to be poured with a bucket of cold water on her head and shouted, why? He didn't cheat and won money with his brain. Why should he be banned from entering? Huh, why do you say? Sister Ling snorted and asked instead of answering. Damn. When Jiajia cursed. As a public relations officer in the casino, she certainly understood why. But then she wondered, oh, that's not right. If card counters are not allowed to enter, why can Zheng Yi and the others? Stupid. Sister Ling poked Wen Jiajia's head with her finger and said unhappily, that's because they were just playing around and didn't touch the casino's cordon at all. Otherwise, you can see if they would get into trouble. At this point, Sister Ling's mind suddenly popped up the image of Owen walking away. She murmured, could he also be playing around? When Jiajia's eyes turned around, the depression she had just felt was swept away. She made a decision in her heart. Saturday morning. Opportunities in life are just a few steps away. If you can't catch up, you'll miss it. When Jiajia, who had dreamed of being a gambling god all night, lay on the bed in a daze. After muttering to herself, she picked up her phone and dialed a number. Hello, third brother, this is Jiao. I want to sign 50,000 chips tonight. No, 100,000. At night. The other side of the city. Knowledge is power. I believe in you, Zuba. When Jiajia handed over chips worth $100,000 to the genius Zuba and said solemnly, this is the only chance. If you want to do it big. We must win. Several people shouted slogans and walked towards the gambling table with the sound of BGM. Silly. Owen happened to be changing chips. Seeing that they looked like gambling gods, he couldn't help shaking his head. Calculating the cards only increases the winning rate. With hundreds of cards, the increase is only 3%. Of course, as the cards continue to be dealt, the winning rate will increase as the cards decrease. The premise is that you completely remember the cards that have been dealt before. Otherwise, if you are careless and place a heavy bet, you may lose everything. With Owen's genius intelligence of LV5, he changed places every time he played and changed more than a dozen casinos in a row. He didn't win every game, but he still won. Overall $1,000 became $20,000, and the place where I stayed was also changed from an apartment hotel to a $1,000 luxury suite in the other shore city. Chapter 75. Whether there is a date or not, hit her 3 times first. The other shore city. Sister Ling's blackjack table. Owen sat down. Sir, you're here to play again. Sister Ling thought of the fleeting thought when she was chatting with Wen Jiajia last night and greeted Owen in an uncharacteristic way. Yes. Owen smiled and nodded. I believe you'll still have good luck tonight. Sister Ling said meaningfully. Haha, I'll take your good words. Owen smiled calmly. Casino monitoring room. Cole, the card counting guys are here again. Should we go and warn them? No need. They are just guys with high expectations and low skills. They think that a Chinese guy is Kevin Ma. Just wait and see. They will lose everything. Okay, let's wait and see. Their chips have become bigger. If they suddenly come to us when we are not paying attention like the guy before, we will lose all our business. You know, the motion capture system has forced us into a desperate situation. Most customers choose machines instead of us. Don't worry, we have something that machines can't replace. A black man seemed to comfort his companions, but also seemed to comfort himself. At another blackjack table, when Jiajia, dressed in red, looked anxiously at Zheng Yi, who was sitting in the main seat. Seeing that the other party had changed from the unrestrained and chic of last night, and his small movements constantly showed his inner anxiety and helplessness, he was already half disappointed. Zheng Yi. When Jiajia saw Zheng Yi betting more chips with his few chips, and hurriedly dissuaded him, you are a math student, you should know. Before she finished speaking, she was interrupted by Zhengyi, who looked irritated and scolded. Don't talk to me about math. What do you know about math? As when Jiajia expected, she lost all the remaining chips in just 2 hands. Several people walked out of the casino cleanly. Zhengyi walked, while shirking the responsibility. We agreed before going on stage that you should listen to me. At the critical moment, there can only be one person's voice. The winning rate of one person is 50%. And what about 2 people? 25%. Why didn't I listen to you? In the end, it was you who bet. If you hadn't lost everything, you wouldn't come out. The companions were dissatisfied and directly fought back. They were just freshly graduated students. This time they came to Las Vegas to play, thinking that with their mathematical talent, they could sweep the casino, but they didn't expect that the ideal was full, but the reality was very skinny. They lost $100,000 at one time, $100,000. Even if they are graduates from prestigious universities, it would take several years to pay back the $100,000. The key is whether the other party is willing to wait. You borrowed these chips. They have nothing to do with us. Zhengyi began to shirk responsibility evasively. Seeing Wen Jiajia's pale face and staring at him with disbelief in her eyes, he changed the subject and left a ray of leeway. But don't worry, we will help pay back part of it. Wen Jiajia looked at Zhengyi deeply for a long time, said nothing, turned around and left, and heard Zhengyi's companions' undisguised words behind him. Why should we help her pay it back? What can we use to pay it back? Sisterling's home. Lost a lot. Sisterling looked at Wen Jiajia, who came in a daze, and she understood what was going on. She scolded her with a look of dismay. I told you not to gamble, but you didn't listen. Those street idiots, who have no ability, dragged you into the water. Be careful to get hit by a car when you go out. Wen Jiajia fell on the bed and covered her head with the quilt. Soon after, she heard a faint sobbing sound, which blocked Sisterling's words and turned them into a long sigh. Owen naturally didn't care about these things. Last night, he went to more than 10 casinos again and turned $20,000 into $50,000. After paying a tax of up to 30%, he transferred $35,000 into his bank card. He didn't want to learn from Ben Campbell and his group, stuffing bundles of cash into clothes and smuggling back. Although this would not cost so much money, the risk was really not small, and it was not necessary at all. Teacher Majaya, it's me. I'm going to review that dance tonight. Do you want to inform Tiffany? If I say no, will you agree? Haha. After chatting with Mary on the phone, Owen drove directly to Mary's villa after getting off the plane. When he arrived, Tiffany was already waiting there in a tight dance costume. You can start first, no need to wait for me. Owen joked, handed a check for $5,000 to Mary, and took out 2 gifts from his backpack and gave them to the 2 of them. Mary had lent him money without hesitation before, which still touched him a little. In addition, they had always taken good care of Owen. Among his many female friends, Owen had the best impression of the 2 of them. Therefore, although they were far apart, they still maintained a relatively close contact. You don't have to pay it back so soon. Mary took the check, frowned, and said in doubt, Owen, this money of yours. Owen, you won't turn into Donald Duck, will you? The straightforward Tiffany said it without hiding anything. $5,000 is not a small amount of money. In just 1 week, Owen actually paid it back. Knowing Owen's special skills, how could they not want to go astray? Am I that kind of person? Owen looked at Tiffany unhappily, narrowed his eyes, and scanned the other person up and down. The cold and cruel look made Tiffany tremble all over. But then, although Tiffany trembled all over, she straightened her body and became more provocative. Aren't you? You guys. Mary immediately understood that the 2 had started to act and shook her head speechlessly, but there was a flash of expectation in her eyes. Watching the 2 people's crossplay, she secretly guessed and was always ready to add her own role. They were all art lovers, and she didn't want to be just a background. A month later, on Friday night, Owen flew to Las Vegas again in first class. The other shore, Sisterling looked at Wen Jiajia and a nation man who had been following her with a worried look on her face. thinking, Jiajia is in trouble now, and I don't know if she can get through the customs smoothly. At this time, a familiar figure flashed before her eyes. Sister Ling quickly looked and confirmed that it was Owen. She had an idea and shouted to her colleagues, Azan, help me get off work. Okay, Sister Ling. In the spacious first floor lobby, there were hundreds of blackjack tables alone. Owen did not choose Sister Ling's table again, but found a remote table to sit down and started playing, and then he still left in moderation. Caesar's Palace Hotel. Casino on the first floor. Three sides, top. When Owen sat down and started to turn over the cards, accompanied by the smell of perfume, a familiar and classic calling sound came to his ears. Owen's mouth curled up, thinking, the jujube tree that was delivered to the door, whether there are jujubes or not, I'll hit her 3 times first. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.